Chapter 1387, You've Grown Up. Chapter 1387, You've Grown Up. Little Princess. Little Princess. Many heroic young elites cheered out for Lin Xiaoge. They couldn't shout out her name, otherwise that would be disrespecting her. Rather, they shouted out her title as Little Princess. For someone to be called the Little Princess of the Sky Spill continent, only Lin Xiaoge could lay claim to this fame. Waves of shouts surged out like endless tides. Lin Ming faintly smiled, thinking out loud, they're really crazy. Lin Xiaoge's opponent was a tall and thin youth that looked just over 20 years old. Facing Lin Xiaoge, he clearly appeared a bit nervous. Lin Ming swept his sense over Lin Xiaoge's opponent. Sloppy and ordinary, not her match at all. In the past, because of Lin Ming, Lin Xiaoge had begun forming her foundation before she was 10 years old. For all these years, she had all sorts of precious medicines to cleanse her body and was able to study top inheritances with famous teachers guiding her. Finally, before Lin Ming ascended, he even placed the blood of the ancient phoenix within her body, giving her the ancient phoenix bloodline. To martial artists of the lower realms, a single drop of ordinary ancient phoenix blood was a priceless treasure. A genius was never created in a single stroke. The only exceptions were those like Xiao Moxian, who were naturally destined to be monstrous geniuses by birth. As for the lower realms, most geniuses slowly accumulated their strength over time. Facing this youth, Lin Xiaoge extracted her own weapon, a long red spear. Seemingly because she worshipped her big brother, Lin Xiaoge had chosen the same weapon that Lin Ming used. It was extremely rare for a girl to use a spear to begin with, but this actually caused all the young elites present to wildly cheer out loud. Lin Xiaoge was tall with slender legs. As she grasped that long spear in her hands, it didn't feel out of place at all. Rather, she seemed heroic, filled with a daring spirit. From the start, her opponent had been completely wasted by Lin Xiaoge's momentum. This battle wasn't tense at all. Lin Xiaoge easily won. Following that, all sorts of young elites made their debut one after another. Some of them were common martial artists that hoped to join the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom, and some of them were even Divine Kingdom princes who had come to the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom to show off, in the hopes of winning over Lin Xiaoge's heart. In Lin Ming's eyes, some of these geniuses weren't too bad. They were just a bit worse than Lin Xiaoge. And among these people, one girl caught Lin Ming's attention. This girl wore a black dress and she had an extremely tall figure. Her skin was delicate and creamy white, her cherry lips slightly upturning, revealing a faintly demonic look. If Lin Xiaoge was a brave young angel, this other girl was a dark enchantress of the night. This black-clothed girl was also an extremely talented individual. She was a similar age to Lin Xiaoge and her strength wasn't any weaker. The light of these two peerless women had covered over every other genius on the martial field. It was like this martial arts meeting was meant for the two of them to fight. The black-clothed girl also had many suitors. They called out from her, and from their words, Lin Ming was also able to learn her name, Sichu Yao Yao. Sichu Yao Yao? Lin Ming was startled. He traced his chin. This name reminded him of one person, Sichu Yao Yu. In the past, when Lin Ming was chased by the Azura Divine Kingdom all the way to the Forsaken God Clan, Lin Ming had been forced to bet on a gambling fight. Finally, he had encountered the hidden genius of the Azura Divine Kingdom, Sichu Yao Yu. That woman had possessed a 7th stage life destruction cultivation as well as an extreme violet dantian. She was skilled in the darkness laws, and with the great desolate blood halberd in hand, she had battled Lin Ming. Their battle had been hard to differentiate between victor and loser, but in the end she had lost to Lin Ming's violent body transformation technique and also lost the great desolate blood halberd to him. Lin Ming asked someone near him, "This young friend, who is that girl on stage?" As Lin Ming asked the youth this question, the youth revealed an understanding expression, as if they were sharing secrets between men. "Hihi, you have thoughts on her? I advise you to think otherwise. That girl on stage is the little sister of Sichu Yao Yu, a peerless genius from the extinct Azura Divine Kingdom. Those that are pursuing her aren't as many as those hoping to win Lin Xiaoge, but there are at least several tens of thousands of them. Looking at your sloppy so-and-so foundation, I don't think you can consider yourself to be in the race at all, ha ha ha." This youth had a young and friendly demeanor, and his clothing indicated he came from the 7-star divine kingdom. Lin Ming had restrained his aura, and with the level of the martial artists in the lower realms, it was naturally impossible for them to make out his boundary and foundation. Lin Ming was surprised for a moment. Sichu Yaoyu has a little sister? Yes, she just recently grew up, and just like Sichu Yaoyu she possesses an extreme violet dantian. When the Azura divine kingdom was destroyed, the Sichu family didn't have many people remaining. The Vermilion bird divine kingdom had shown mercy and only executed those from the Azura divine kingdom that followed Yang Yun in the past. As for the others, they were let go. With their country destroyed, the sisters were left alone and there were many people who had thoughts on them. It was said that there were several divine sea powerhouses who wanted to take them as their own. Their days definitely didn't pass in peace. This 7-star youth seemed to be very nosy. He purposefully lowered his voice and spoke in a dark and mysterious tone. As Lin Ming heard this, he sighed deeply, feeling a bit of pity for Sichu Yaoyu and Sichu Yaoiro's destiny. The two women had survived on the edges of the cataclysmic destruction of their kingdom, something that wasn't easy at all. If they had to blame someone, they could only blame the high-level figures of the Azura divine kingdom in the past. Those people had become enemies with Lin Ming, completely throwing themselves to Yang Yun's side, betraying the other 3 divine kingdoms and becoming the enemy of the world. In Lin Ming's opinion, with Sichu Yaoyu's personality, she definitely would not submit to anyone. She was an incomparably proud individual who chased after the road of martial arts with all her heart and soul. This sort of woman desired only to travel the furthest they could on their path and wouldn't consider something like marriage at all. I never imagined that after I fought Sichu Yaoyu in the past, years later, our little sisters would also fight. It seems we really are rivals. Lin Ming self-deprecatingly thought. And at this time, the 7-star youth began to lewdly say, "Hey, you know, those 2 girls are truly top-quality goods. If I could marry the 2 of them together I would even be willing to be a pig in my next life. But what a pity, that's impossible for nobodies like us, haha." The 7-star youth patted Lin Ming's shoulder as if they were already familiar buddies. Lin Ming only smiled, giving no reply. After being in the divine realm for so long and now suddenly being together with ordinary martial artists of the lower realms, this was quite an interesting feeling. The martial arts meeting continued. Without a doubt, Sichu Yaoyao and Lin Xiaoge were the 2 most brilliant supernovas on the field. The 2 of them had continuous winning streaks. Those who wished in vain to defeat them were forced to admit defeat, and those divine kingdom princes that hoped to win over their hearts were sent running back, beaten so badly that their mothers wouldn't recognize them. Finally, the battle between Sichu Yaoyao and Lin Xiaoge arrived. The atmosphere within the arena had reached a crescendo. This battle was extremely intense. Sichu Yaoyao used the darkness laws, sending a thick shroud of darkness to cover the field. Lin Xiaoge then used the fire laws to clear apart the darkness, burning the arena red hot. Then, Sichu Yaoyao used her extreme violet dantian, forming a demon moon in the sky. Lin Xiaoge followed by burning her ancient phoenix blood. With her red spear in hand, she seemed to rule the world. She engaged in a fierce melee with Sichu Yaoyao. The 2 peerless women battled for several dozen rounds, their fighting spirit overflowing in the heat of the battle. The audience cheered out again and again, shouting at the top of their lungs. The older martial artists sitting atop the White Jade building also nodded repeatedly, filled with praise for Sichu Yaoyao and Lin Xiaoge. This battle lasted for just under an hour. But in the end, Lin Xiaoge's endurance proved to be superior. As they continued to fight, the difference in physical strength began to reveal itself as Lin Xiaoge's advantage grew greater and greater. After all, with countless resources to temper her body and the ancient phoenix blood implanted within her, Lin Xiaoge was able to follow the same path that Lin Ming did in the past. In terms of strength, endurance, and blood vitality, she far surpassed other martial artists of her level. In the end, Sichu Yaoyao exhausted all of her strength and Lin Xiaoge was able to defeat her. Even though the audience erupted in waves of cheers, Lin Xiaoge wasn't satisfied with this result. With all things considered, she felt that she hadn't truly defeated Sichu Yaoyao. Rather, The reason she won was the increased blood vitality and strength that the ancient phoenix blood had given her. The last match has ended, and now Lin Xiaoge has become the champion of all young elites in this martial arts meeting. As for Sichu Yaro, she is just a step below in second place, the master of ceremonies happily announced. As someone from the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom, he naturally hoped that Lin Xiaoge would win. Beneath the arena, Sichu Yaro was wiping off the blood from her lips, looking at Lin Xiaoge with an unconvinced and stubborn look in her eyes. She was unwilling. Many years ago, the big sister she worshipped lost to Lin Ming, and now today she had lost to Lin Ming's little sister. Lin Xiaoge could sense the refusal in Sichu Yaroiro's eyes. She also wasn't satisfied with the battle just now. She turned towards Sichu Yaro and loudly said, "Sichu Yaro, the reason I defeated you now is because of my endurance. There is nothing to be proud of in beating you like this. 1 year from now, let us compete once more. If I cannot defeat you within a quarter hour, then I will consider myself as having lost." Lin Xiaoge's words were breathlessly spoken, leaving the entire audience in shock. Then, they were suddenly excited. If they could watch such a battle, that would truly be an eye-opening stroke of luck. "Humph, I have no need for you to go easy on me. But what you said is right. 1 year from now, I will challenge you once more," Sichu Yaro loudly shouted out. Then, she turned and began to leave. The master of ceremonies smiled, saying, "Young lady Sichu Yaro, please wait a minute, we must award you the prize." "I understand." Speaking of the prize, Sichu Yaro stopped walking. Although she was also an extremely proud person, it was impossible for her to ignore the prizes from the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom. They were simply too rich. Like this, Sichu Yaro and Lin Xiaoge stood together, the two of them in sharp opposition to each other, a brilliance shining from the two of them. Lin Ming faintly smiled. He could feel the spirit of a martial artist from Lin Xiaoge's body. Only by never being satisfied with one's strength would one have the mindset to make continuous breakthroughs. He said in a soft voice, "Xiaoge, you've grown up." This light sound passed through the wind, traveling tens of thousands of feet before gently entering Lin Xiaoge's ears. Lin Xiaoge suddenly shook. This voice. Her breath caught in her throat and her heart nearly jumped out of her chest. This sound was very familiar. Big Brother. A vivid excitement filled her mind. Big Brother had returned from the divine realm? She hurriedly cast out her sense. Although her talent was high, she was only 20-some years old and her cultivation was limited. Moreover, in this martial arts meeting there were many masters present, all of them sending out different auras that could hinder one's senses. With Lin Xiaoge's strength, wanting to find someone in this arena among tens of thousands of people wasn't easy at all. Chapter 1388, Returning Home. Chapter 1388, Returning Home. Lin Xiaoge hurriedly searched for Lin Ming. And at this time, the sound of drums and strings filled the air. In the far-off horizon, a golden light flashed as a massive golden carriage slowly flew forwards. In front of this carriage, 9 spirit creatures similar to vermilion birds were pulling it forwards. Around these spirit birds were groups of soldiers clad in gold, carrying shimmering gold spears as if they were legendary generals of the heavens. Behind this carriage were groups of maids carrying silk covers that masked the sides of it. Not just that, but there were also 2 groups of maids that held baskets of flower petals, constantly tossing these petals out in the air. Although these flower petals were not heavenly materials, they were still top-quality magic treasures, refreshing and revitalizing to the senses. For a time, the entire sky was filled with the tantalizing sound of music as waves of fragrance overwhelmed the senses. Just what sort of great person had arrived? Everyone looked towards the skies. With such a big appearance, this was certainly not someone average. Even the many divine sea powerhouses that came before didn't have such pomp and flair. As the curtains of the divine carriage were pulled apart, people were suddenly enlightened as they saw who was inside. They finally knew just what sort of mystical existence had arrived. Although they felt it was a bit strange, they had long since become accustomed to it. On the exquisite jade building, the many divine sea powerhouses quickly set forwards to greet this figure. For someone to draw the greetings of so many people, It was clear that the master within this golden carriage had a status much higher than those present. Only Lin Ming, upon seeing the scene within this divine carriage, felt his jaw drop down, his words caught in his throat like he had swallowed an egg. This massive carriage was over 100 feet tall and wide, and the inside was extremely spacious. It wasn't a problem for several people to lay down within it. But now, in that opulent carriage, there was only a foot-long red and furry little dog. This little dog lay on sheets of silk in an extremely lazy and cozy posture, its doggy mouth arched in a smile. Its short and thin tail was curled upwards, happily shaking about. And near this red little dog, there were all sorts of delicate pastries and fruits set about. These pastries and fruits were not ordinary items, but soul-nourishing goods made from top-quality materials. As long as one absorbed their essence, one could nourish the essence and revitalize the divine soul, strengthening the mind. At this time, the little dog was pinching a crystal grape-like fruit in its paws, bringing it towards its doggy lips. As Lin Ming saw this dog as well as the showy scene, he didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. This dog only had a soul form, so what was the purpose of riding a carriage? It seemed that Demon Shine was passing his life in the lower realms extremely comfortably. This damned dead dog. Lin Ming couldn't help but joke. And this unconscious joke was actually heard by those nearby. Those sitting next to him changed their expressions immediately. What nonsense are you blabbering on about? Lord Demon Shine is the divine hound that followed Sage Lin in the past. In the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom, his qualifications are the oldest and his character is of the highest nobility and status. Although his appearance is, extremely cute, and not too dignified, he doesn't need to disguise himself. A book cannot be judged by its cover. Lord Demonshine's knowledge is incomparably rich and he far surpasses anyone in the Skyspill continent. He understands the divine realm and knows even more about the past and present. He is the national saint beast that protects the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom, and yet you actually called Lord Demon Shine a damned dead dog. It's like you don't know that is a capital crime. Several surrounding people sternly admonished Lin Ming, their complexion a bit fanatic. Even that 7-star youth that was friendly with Lin Ming quickly shut up. To martial artists of the lower realms, Lin Ming, who had cut down Yang Yun, saving the lives of most of the divine sea powerhouses and completely reversing the situation of the Skyspill continent, was considered a living god. As for the guardian hound of a god, he naturally had to be an extraordinary existence amongst saint beasts. Lin Ming speechlessly traced his nose, thinking this all too funny. That damned Demon Shine had actually become a character of the highest nobility and status as well as the divine guardian hound of the kingdom. Such a great reputation and such a great show. Once this was combined with what Lin Ming knew himself, he couldn't help but chuckle. As for those around him, although they had serious looks on their faces, they could only endure this. The divine guardian hound of the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom, Lord Demon Shine, has arrived. Lord Demon Shine has been invited to issue the rewards for the top 3 contestants of this martial arts meeting. The Master of Ceremonies shouted out loud. As for those great figures from the various divine kingdoms and martial families, they all greeted Demon Shine on their own. Although they didn't greet him like a junior did to a senior, their actions held the meaning of treating Demon Shine like an elder. And in fact, Demon Shine was indeed their elder. He was just under 50,000 years old, several times older than these people's grandfathers. After all, in the Skyspill continent, even late divine sea powerhouses lived at most to 8,000 to 9,000 years old. Although this was the indisputable truth, Lin Ming found it impossible to associate Demon Shine with the appearance of an elder. As he watched Demon Shine waggle his 2 small paws and greet these juniors in return as if he were their elder, Lin Ming couldn't help but laugh out loud again. This fellow was simply too rambunctious to fool these top-level figures into treating him like an elder. That was simply the work of a con artist. The top 3 contestants of this martial arts meeting had already gathered in the center of the arena, waiting for Demon Shine to pass out the rewards. And at this time, an urgent true essence sound transmission from Lin Xiaoge echoed in his ears, filled with anxiety, excitement, and a trace of uncertainty. Uncle Demon Shine, I heard my big brother's voice just now. There are too many people and their force fields and auras are too jumbled up so I can't find him. When Lin Ming ascended, Lin Xiaoge had still been extremely young. Even so, at that age, she had already established the most basic martial arts foundation for herself, and her memory was extremely sharp. Lin Ming's voice and appearance had left a profound impression on her and was something that she would never be able to forget. What? Demon Shine nearly jumped in shock, too stunned to reply. He quickly looked around the entire audience with his sense. In the past, he had signed a contract with Lin Ming, and although that contract had been lifted from the both of them, there was still a faint connection between their divine souls. In just a moment, Demon Shine was able to find Lin Ming in the crowd of people. In the corner of the arena, wearing blue clothes, there was a young man casually standing there with a smile on his face. Although he didn't seem different from anyone around him, Demon Shine could feel that he existed in some different space, as if all laws were bowing to him as a sovereign king, worshipping his existence. After so many years passed, Lin Ming's appearance hadn't changed, but his aura had become increasingly deep, as fathomless as the sea. Even Demon Shine couldn't be sure just what Lin Ming's boundary was. Was it divine transformation? Or higher? Demon Shine felt that Lin Ming was most likely at the divine transformation realm. But according to what he knew, just when did a divine transformation realm powerhouse have such a terrifying aura like Lin Ming did? Demon Shine was dumbfounded. And beside him, Lin Xiaoge had followed his eyes and also locked onto Lin Ming. Big brother. It was really her big brother. Lin Xiaoge cried out with joy and recklessly flew straight towards Lin Ming. This sudden change caught the entire audience off guard. The reward ceremony hadn't occurred. Rather, they saw Lin Xiaoge burst out with excitement, her eyes filling with tears as she shot towards the audience. In particular, those people surrounding Lin Ming were especially startled. They watched with their own eyes as the goddess of the Sky Spill continent, an unreachable existence, began to rush towards them. All of them were at a loss as they began to panic. 10,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 100 feet, with Lin Xiaoge's speed, this distance was passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Xiaoge soon reached the audience stands. The seven-star youth watched in awe as the goddess of his dreams appeared right in front of him. He was so happy and ecstatic that he thought he would faint from joy. Just what was going on? He wasn't stupid enough to think that Lin Xiaoge would come here for him. Even so, the direction she flew towards was at him. Was he dreaming? The seven-star youth was nearly about to reach out his hand. But at this time, he only felt a refreshing fragrance rush over him. Lin Xiaoge, the #1 goddess of the Sky Spill continent, the beauty that was chased by an innumerable number of suitors, had thrown herself into the arms of the man sitting beside her. As Lin Xiaoge crashed into Lin Ming's arms, she began to cry out loud as she burst into tears. How could Lin Xiaoge not be excited upon seeing Lin Ming again? Since Lin Ming ascended to the divine realm, there hadn't been any news of him. Lin Xiaoge was a little child that had been extremely attached to her big brother, and as she grew up, she also learned from Demon Shine just how cruel and grim the divine realm actually was. There were countless dangers waiting around every corner, and even the top powerhouse of the Sky Spill continent could only be considered a useless speck of dust in the divine realm. At the time, Lin Xiaoge had been extremely worried. Even though Lin Ming was highly talented, the divine realm seemed far too dangerous. That was until today. Now that she saw Lin Ming return safely, Lin Xiaoge felt as if she were in a dream. All of the worry that she had been keeping tamped down in her heart all these years was suddenly released, and she couldn't help but cry. Upon seeing this, the entire audience was so shocked that their chins nearly fell to the ground. Who is that man? How is he related to Lin Xiaoge? The eyes of many Divine Kingdom princes turned red with envy. The Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom had never sent out any news that Lin Xiaoge had fallen in love. In fact, to a martial artist, discussing marriage in one's 20s was far too early. For a genius, marrying at 200 years wasn't too old. Even so, there were far too many handsome young elites pursuing Lin Xiaoge in hopes of winning her favor. They wished to cultivate these feelings over time and finally take her hand in marriage. However, Lin Xiaoge had no interest in any of these pursuers. The Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom also had no plan of marrying Lin Xiaoge off, thus these droves of pursuers were all turned back in disappointment. And now, all of them could only stare helplessly on as Lin Xiaoge threw herself into the arms of another man. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. In their opinion, even if Lin Xiaoge were to accept the affections of someone, she would do so with a lofty attitude just like a goddess, not in this way where she threw herself towards someone underneath the gaze of everyone present. At this time, Shang Yutian, Li Yuxiao, and the others also discovered Lin Ming. Sage Lin, it really is Sage Lin. Sage Lin has returned. Wasn't it said that you cannot return to the lower realms after ascending? It really is Sage Lin. Hurry, let's go greet him. Just what sort of character was Lin Ming? When he cut down Yang Yun in the past, he had only been a mere 5th-level life destruction martial artist. At that time, Lin Ming's strength was to the point where he could slaughter late Divine Sea powerhouses. Facing early Divine Sea powerhouses, he simply had to open his domain to instantly kill them. Now with a dozen-plus years having passed and Lin Ming also having returned safely from the Divine Realm, the boundary he reached was hard to imagine. It could be said that he could kill 100 Divine Sea powerhouses by simply raising his hand. All those who knew Lin Ming, including not just Divine Sea powerhouses but also the sovereigns of many 5th-grade sects and family heads also flew towards Lin Ming. Suddenly, Lin Ming was surrounded by many people in his little corner of the arena. Chapter 1389, Meeting. Chapter 1389, Meeting. This. The 7-star youth sitting beside Lin Ming had already entered a stunned state, completely slack-jawed. He originally thought that Lin Ming was Lin Xiaoge's lover, but now that he saw so many great figures fly over to the packed little corner he was sitting at, he was left dumbfounded. It would be almost impossible for him to see any of these characters. Let alone these people, even high-stage life-destruction martial artists that were ranked on the destiny decree were nothing but mythical existences to him. But now, so many of these top-level figures were right next to him. Just the pressure they exuded was hard to withstand. And, all of these characters had gathered around Lin Ming. As for little Princess Lin Xiaoge, she was continuously crying in Lin Ming's arms. Just who was this young man? The 7-star youth's brain was already abuzz with chaos. He could not imagine just who Lin Ming truly was. And besides the 7-star youth, everyone else in the audience wasn't sure what was happening either. They were already panic-stricken and in shock, so how could they have the presence of mind to think about it? At this time, the 7-star Divine Kingdom's Divine Sovereign Li Yuxiao's few words caused the hearts of all present to shake. 7-star Kingdom's Li Yuxiao greets Sage Lin. Lin Ming was far younger than Li Yuxiao, but Li Yuxiao still greeted him with the utmost respect. In the world of martial arts, strength was revered above all. As for Lin Ming's strength, he had already far surpassed them by 108,000 miles as well as being the great benefactor to all those present. Sage Lin. What did the 7-star Divine Sovereign just say? That young man is Sage Lin. Foremost in the audience, this was the first time that they had seen Lin Ming. They never imagined that this character who had created the most fantastic and wondrous myth in the Sky Spill continent, a great hero who far surpassed all others, would actually be standing right in front of them. This sort of feeling was just like a mortal casually bumping into someone on the city streets and finding out that they were the current emperor. Moreover, to these martial artists, the shock of seeing Lin Ming was at least 100 times more intense than a mortal running into his emperor. It's really Sage Lin. Didn't Sage Lin already ascend? How could he have returned to the Sky Spill continent? I heard that those who ascend aren't able to return. I have no idea. We cannot speculate on the affairs of such greater characters. I never imagined that Sage Lin would be so young. He seems like a young man in his early 20s. What nonsense. Sage Lin is very young to begin with. When he rose to fame he was just over 20 years old, and now he should be in his 30s. Lin Ming was far too strong. People subconsciously regarded Lin Ming as their senior, forgetting the fact that he was 30-some years old. And not too far away from Lin Ming, the 7-star youth felt his hand shaking. His hand had been patting Lin Ming's shoulder just now. Rubbing his hand, the 7-star youth felt his entire body lighten up, as if he were living a dream. I actually spoke to Sage Lin and I even patted his shoulder. I ever said that nobodies like us would have no chance of matching with Lin Xiaoge. Whatever happened, I'm glad I didn't say anything too excessive or who knows how I would have ended up. It wasn't just the 7-star youth. but all those around him who had been seriously educating him about demon shine, the divine guardian hound of the vermilion bird divine kingdom, felt their minds go blank, completely losing all ability to process any thoughts. Shong families Shong Yutian greets Sage Lin. White Clan's Snowgale greets Sage Lin. One by one, all the great figures present came up to greet Lin Ming. Those with the qualifications to stand in the inner circle and greet Lin Ming directly were all divine sovereigns, heads of great families, or at least top-level princes of divine kingdoms. Without an exception, each one was a divine sea powerhouse. As for those sovereigns and patriarchs of lower-level sects and family clans, all of them were stuck in the periphery, simply not possessing the ability to speak with Lin Ming. As Lin Ming saw all these familiar faces once more, his face was filled with emotion. Over a dozen years had passed since these old allies had helped him lay siege to Yangyun. Now, they had established their status even more, becoming the absolute controllers of the Sky-Spill continent. With them looking after the Vermilion Bird Kingdom that was formed by Divine Phoenix Island as well as the Lin family, Lin Ming could feel relieved. And with the resources he left behind, that was enough to supply the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom for the next several hundred years. They would be able to train a group of core leaders in the upcoming centuries, and at that time, the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom would be much more stable. At this time, a small red dog pushed his way through the bustling crowd, yelling out, "Lin Ming, good heavens, you finally came back." With Lin Ming's current status, only Demon Shine was able to speak so carelessly and jokingly to him. When Lin Ming's cultivation was low, it had been Demon Shine who had helped protect him. The youth and the dog had gone through many trials together, and even though Lin Ming became far stronger afterwards, they still considered each other friends and comrades in arms, without any distinction between who was higher and lower. Lin Ming faintly smiled, jokingly replying, "I suppose. After so many years, it seems you've also become the national divine guardian hound." Hearing these teasing words, Demon Shine's complexion turned red. He playfully said, "Don't make fun of someone as great as me. In just a dozen some years, you've already returned to the lower realms from the divine realm. From what I know, it isn't easy to return. You need the necessary strength to pass through the space storms as well as a considerable amount of money for the transmission fee. Normally, others wouldn't think of returning to the lower realms so easily. It seems you've done quite well for yourself in the divine realm." "It's been okay." Lin Ming smiled, not bothering to narrate all his brilliant successes. If he told Demon Shine that he had obtained second place in the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting, the little dog would probably go crazy. "Okay is good enough." Demon Shine stretched out his paw, patting Lin Ming's shoulder, seeming as if he were worried for him. However, this scene combined with the earnest and serious expression on Demon Shine's face made one want to laugh out loud. It's hard to survive in the Divine Realm. Many geniuses of the lower realms often perish in the years after they ascend. As for those that survive, most just linger around uselessly, barely managing to maintain a living. Those that can produce some results and finally rule over their own area are the minority within the minority. Luckily, your talent is far too freakish, and with someone as wonderful as Fairy Foam guiding you, this shouldn't be a problem for you at all. So how is it? Have your days at the ancient Phoenix clan been well? Demon Shine knew that Lin Ming met with Fairy Foam, thus he naturally assumed that Lin Ming was also residing at the ancient Phoenix clan. "I left the ancient Phoenix clan a long time ago," Lin Ming casually said. When he had decided to go to the true martial great world to inherit the wealth that Mo Eversnow left behind, he had left the ancient Phoenix clan. Now, only his name existed there. Looking back at his journey these past years, when Lin Ming first ascended, he needed the protection of Fairy Foam in order to reach the divine realm. Otherwise, he would have been torn apart by the space storms that existed between the lower realms and the divine realm. But now, Lin Ming's strength far surpassed that of Fairy Foam. And in order to accomplish this, Lin Ming had put forth an endless level of effort, experiencing countless struggles, and even surviving innumerable life or death battles and dangerous situations. Lin Ming didn't speak of any of this to Demon Shine. He only smiled, clearly and gently. "You've left the ancient Phoenix clan? Isn't that a bit too premature? The ancient Phoenix clan is a Holy Land level influence of the divine realm, and they have many resources that are quite good. If you leave the ancient Phoenix clan so soon, you might encounter many dangers. Demon Shine rubbed a paw over his chin, speaking with some worry. Lin Ming chuckled. There have been some dangers. Before I returned to the lower realms, I was in a tight spot, but I've finally resolved that manner. In fact, not only did I not lose anything, but I gained some advantages instead. Lin Ming naturally referred to the matter of himself being hunted down by the Saint Race's spy and then Tian Mingzi. This was not just a tight spot, but an extremely dangerous death chase that nearly killed Lin Ming. However, he kept his tone even and understated so that he didn't arouse Lin Xiaoge's concern. But even so, just a brief description caused Lin Xiaoge's heart to tighten. She wanted to ask him just what happened, but Lin Ming only spoke a little bit about it to resolve her worries. Big brother, big sister Qianyu and big sister Xingxuan both went searching for you. Have you seen them? In accordance with customs, Lin Xiaoge should have referred to Mu Qianyu and Qin Xingxuan as her sister-in-laws. However, she was used to calling them big sister, thus she continued to do so. Millimeter, I saw them. Lin Ming nodded. Mu Qianyu and Qin Xingxuan had finally met with Lin Ming once more after several twists and turns in the divine realm. All of this was glossed over in just a few simple words. That's wonderful. Lin Xiaoge happily said. But at this time, she seemed to think of something. She whispered, Big brother, can I also go with you to the divine realm? Lin Xiaoge's voice dimmed down. Her cultivation was simply too low. No matter how stable her foundation was, she still only possessed a revolving core cultivation, soon to enter life destruction. This sort of cultivation naturally didn't give her the qualifications to enter the divine realm. It was only that she feared that once Lin Ming went back, she wouldn't be able to see him for who knew how many years. However, Lin Xiaoge never thought that Lin Ming would only faintly smile and say, You can. If you want to go to the divine realm, then I will lead you there. In the divine realm, Lin Xiaoge would have a better space to grow. As for Lin Ming, he only needed to place Lin Xiaoge, Mu Qianyu, and Qin Xingxuan in an Empyrean-level Holy Land and he wouldn't need to worry about any sort of retaliation from Tian Mingzi. The only worry was the upcoming great calamity of humanity. If the situation turned out worse than imagined, Lin Ming would send Lin Xiaoge back to the lower realms. Big brother, are you for real? That's great. Lin Xiaoge jumped up in joy. She didn't think that Lin Ming would agree to her request. Going to the divine realm with her revolving core cultivation was one matter, and even if she was able to ascend, she feared that Lin Ming would refuse her because he thought it would be too dangerous to take her there. Because of this, she didn't believe he would agree so suddenly and readily. Big brother, you're too awesome. Lin Xiaoge jumped up and hugged Lin Ming's neck. At this time, not too far from Lin Ming, a black-clothed woman was standing calmly in the void, looking at him. This woman was Sichu Yao Yao. At this time, because of the intense battle that had just occurred, her complexion was still slightly pale. It made her seem a bit less demonic and a bit more delicate. She and Sichu Yao Yu truly were surprisingly similar in appearance. Looking at Sichu Yao Yao, Lin Ming couldn't help but feel a tinge of guilt. No matter what was said, the truth was that Lin Ming was the one who had brought about the destruction of the Azura Divine Kingdom, toppling their dynasty. The order to exterminate the Azura Divine Kingdom had also been handed down by Lin Ming. With his strength and prestige at that time, he indeed possessed the ability to erase a divine kingdom with a few simple words. The annihilation of the Azura Divine Kingdom had caused Sichu Yao Yu and Sichu Yao Yao to live a rough and perilous life. If that hadn't happened, their growth would have been much smoother than it was now, and their statuses would have been very different. Although they would still have been inferior to Lin Xiaoge, they would absolutely have been unattainable and proud daughters of heaven. Is your older sister doing well? Lin Ming suddenly asked in a soft voice. Chapter 1390, The Day of Return. Chapter 1390, The Day of Return. After being spoken to by Lin Ming, Sichu Yao Yao never thought that he would bother noticing her. Her feelings towards Lin Ming were extremely complex. Although he was their enemy and she also hated him, she couldn't help but admire him. Although the fall of the Azura Divine Kingdom had been caused by Lin Ming, Sichu Yao Yao also knew that this ending could only be blamed on the high-level figures of the Azura Divine Kingdom in the past. They had followed Yang Yun and had made themselves enemies of the world. My big sister is doing well, Sichu Yaro said, somewhat indifferently. Facing her old enemy, she naturally wouldn't reveal the difficult lives they lived. In this point, Sichu Yaro and Sichu Yaoyu shared the same level of proudness. Lin Ming only smiled, not speaking further. He could imagine the destiny that the Sichu family had suffered and all the people that would try to push them down. In the past, the Sichu family had offended many people and had made many enemies. Although they should have also helped others in the past, human nature was capricious and fickle. When a family met misfortune, there would often be many people kicking them while they were down as opposed to helping them. Moreover, although the Sichu family had been destroyed, they would have inevitably left behind a great deal of wealth. This wealth was certain to be grasped in the hands of the survivors of the Sichu family, and others would definitely covet them. Lin Ming didn't seriously speak with the stubborn Sichu Yaro. He only said to Demon Shine with a true essence sound transmission, "Look after the descendants of the Sichu family for me. It seems that their days haven't passed in peace." Demon Shine obscenely grinned, "You want me to look after them? Really look after them? In the past, the Sichu family hunted you down to the edges of heaven and the ends of the sea, even forcing you into the 8,000-mile Black Swamp and then finally cornering you in the Forsaken God clan before engaging you in a life-or-death battle. And even so, you still want to treat their evil with kindness? Have you taken a fancy to those two sisters and want to bed them together?" Demon Shine's tone wasn't proper at all. Lin Ming rolled his eyes, not bothering to bicker with him. "I've never made it a habit to treat those who harm me with mercy. In the past, those from the Azura divine kingdom that chased me down have already died, and there is no need to implicate those that weren't involved. If this continues, then that will be a cause of karmic injustice. I cultivate the martial path and wish for my thoughts to be as clear as possible, with no debts or grudges lest I wet myself with karma. The cause and effects of this world are troublesome, but it is still something that I must sort out to allow my mind to reach perfection. Only like that can I gather the momentum of my destiny and continue forwards carefully." Lin Ming's theory of destiny involved with karma wasn't something that was positively confirmed in the martial world. But what he did know was that destiny truly did exist. Destiny and karma were closely intertwined with one's inevitable fate. In addition, every time one was victorious, every time one survived a dangerous situation, the faith in themselves that they carved in their bones would be even greater. Then, the next time they encountered danger, they would be far more confident and the chances they had of returning alive would also be higher. Demon Shine smirked. "Che, how boring. Those two beautiful sisters could be so easily obtained by you and yet all you do is spout out a bunch of philosophical nothings. Well, since you asked me to, I will naturally help take good care of them. But, little Lin boy, I haven't been to the divine realm in a long time and would like to go back for a quick stroll. Is it convenient for you?" Demon Shine knew that the price of going to and from the divine realm wasn't small and he was afraid that Lin Ming wouldn't be able to withstand it, thus he asked such a question. Lin Ming smiled, "No problem." Lin Ming's current wealth far surpassed most great world king holy lands. Forgetting the pills and jade slips that were left behind in Primordius' heavenly palace by Empyrean Primordius, just the demon spirit bead essence and the 9-sun jade base beneath it was a nearly incalculable level of wealth. Lin Ming, Demon Shine, Lin Xiaoge, and some others left the giant crowd of people and began to fly towards the Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom's palaces. As the crowd was left behind, all of them felt as if they were experiencing some ridiculous dream. Lin Ming had appeared too suddenly. For such a secretive character to appear out of nowhere, this left one feeling truly perplexed. After arriving at the Vermilion Bird Divine Palace, the first matter Lin Ming went to do was to visit his parents. Since leaving the Lin family at Green Mulberry City and going to study martial arts at the Seven Profound Martial House, over 20 years had passed, and unimaginable changes had occurred to him in this time. As Lin Ming recalled the road he walked, he sobered up. It was hard to imagine just how he had arrived at this step. On his road, there were innumerable moments of sadness, danger, and even despair. He wandered the edge of life and death again and again, experiencing countless intense slaughter battles. In most of these fights, Lin Ming had defeated his opponents. But there were also many times where Lin Ming was hunted down by others and he would have to struggle through dangerous situations again and again. To walk down the road of martial arts was to battle the heavens. If one was content with their current situation, they could easily live a life 10,000 times better than that of a mortal king. But for someone like Lin Ming, who only wished to seek the peak of all martial arts, his true companion during these many years was loneliness and danger. Such pressures and tribulations required a sturdy heart and mind to withstand. However, even though Lin Ming's heart of martial arts was extremely firm and resolute, it would still exhaust his mind if this continued for much longer. At this time, to enjoy the warm affection of family was the best means of treatment. This was especially true when Lin Ming saw his parents living an easy and comfortable life, looking much more lively and young than they did in the past. Just this alone was enough for Lin Ming to know that all the pain and misery he suffered was worth it. "Father, mother, look who came back." Lin Xiaoge was shouting out loud like a morning bird. She crashed through the house doors, impatiently relaying the good news to her parents. In the room, an attractive couple was sitting down. They both looked just over 30 years old, and the previous traces of work and exhaustion had long since been washed clean by all sorts of miracle medicines. Like this, it wouldn't be difficult for them to live for several thousand years. "Father, mother, your child has returned." For the next several days, Lin Ming followed his parents and little sister. During these warm times, Lin Ming felt an inexplicable peace of mind. All of those restless killing intents that gathered in his mind slowly subsided, becoming much fainter. Lin Ming's battle spirit also seemed to loosen as if it would soon break through to the blue soul level. When Lin Ming was at the middle divine sea realm, his battle spirit had already reached gold perfection. As for the blue soul level, he still hadn't been able to take that final step even after all these years of training. But now, in these peaceful times, Lin Ming actually felt that the blue soul battle spirit level was finally entering his reach. "Demon Shine, I've brought a body for you. I can help you possess it." Lin Ming called over Demon Shine. "Mortal body?" Demon Shine's eyes brightened. He had been without a mortal body for many years already. In the past, he had bragged that he was Holy Lord Demon Shine, but the truth was that he was simply making empty boasts. In truth, his strength had been located somewhere between the divine transformation and divine lord realm, and without his mortal body he was only able to display an extremely limited level of his past strength. "Take it out and let's see." Demon Shine's tongue lolled out. He panted heavily as he spoke with excitement. Lin Ming waved his hand. A barrier of grand mist space fell over them, isolating out everything. Then, he pulled out the body of the demon wolf he had captured. This fierce demon wolf had sharp fangs and a pair of knife-like wings on its back. As Demon Shine saw this, he was shocked. "Holy crap! A three-eyed demon wolf, I am seeing things. This demon wolf not only has a body as hard as divine iron, but it also possesses a third eye called the Davic Heaven Eye. It possesses the ability to understand the laws from birth, and it also possesses an intellect similar to humanity. Its mental strength is particularly formidable. I can't believe you were actually able to find something so good. This sort of beast would fetch a sky-high price on the black market." Demon Shine didn't believe that Lin Ming had caught this demon wolf. Rather, he believed Lin Ming had bought it. But no matter how it was, this was truly a great mortal body for himself. Lin Ming said, "Are you satisfied?" "Satisfied, of course I'm satisfied. But, it's only that taking possession of this body won't be easy for me." "No worries, I can help you with that." Lin Ming possessed a perfect gold battle spirit and also comprehended the divine dream law. His understandings of the soul had reached an extremely high level. It wouldn't be a problem at all for him to help Demon Shine take over the body of a three-eyed demon wolf. And in fact, with Lin Ming's help, the process of taking over the demon wolf's body was extremely smooth. A day later, a tall and powerfully built wolf that was larger than an ox began to recklessly fly above the skies of the Lin family's palace. The howls and unbridled cackles of the demonic wolf caused everyone in the surrounding area to stare in shock. Among these people were many high-level figures. As they felt the aura exuded by this demon wolf, all of them were secretly dumbfounded. Lin Ming had been back for just a few days, Yet he was able to so easily put forth such a terrifying demon wolf. Without a doubt, even if all of them gathered together, they still wouldn't be a match for this demon wolf. Like this, a month passed. Whoosh! In the rear courtyard of the Lin family palace, the phoenix blood spear shot forth, controlled by the ruling spirit art. The spear seemed to have a mind of its own, deftly cutting apart a willow tree. With a sparkle of spear light, this willow tree was instantly carved by Lin Ming, leaving the image of a vivid, lifelike phoenix. This spear was able to destroy a 100,000-foot mountain, but now the spearlight was being used to carve a willow tree and also produce such a fine and intricate design. This level of control was truly shocking. Lin Ming was using the ruling spirit art to temper his own battle spirit. He wanted to overcome the barrier of the blue soul battle spirit as soon as possible. Big brother, well done. In the rear courtyard, Lin Xiaoge clapped and cheered out loud as she saw Lin Ming train his martial arts. Lin Ming faintly smiled. He turned to look at her. Standing beside Lin Xiaoge were 3 other young girls. These 3 young girls were all her friends, and as girls that knew Lin Xiaoge, their status was definitely not ordinary. Of these young girls, one was the princess of the 9-furnace divine kingdom and another was the most outstanding disciple of the White Clan. There was even a chance that she would be a potential candidate to be the patriarch of the White Clan in the future. As for the last girl, she was the granddaughter of the Heaven Mirror Sage, who had already retired to his homeland. She possessed a variation dantian and her talent was in no way inferior to Sichu Yaoyue's. It was only because she was too young at 16 years of age that she didn't participate in Vermilion Bird Divine Kingdom's martial arts meeting. As they saw Lin Ming look at them, the young girls stumbled over themselves. The youngest girl's cheeks turned bright red and hot. The only reason they were able to enter the rear courtyard of the Lin family palace and see Lin Ming train was because they were Lin Xiaoge's friends. Otherwise, they would never have had such a chance. There was no need to mention Lin Ming's storied deeds and history. The young girls could only envy Lin Xiaoge that she had such a spectacular big brother. I heard that Sage Lin will leave soon. A young girl whispered to Lin Xiaoge. That's right. My brother is returning soon, he'll be leaving tomorrow. Moreover, Big Brother has also promised to bring me with him, it's just that, we will have to separate. Oh, hearing Lin Xiaoge's confirmation, the young girls were a bit disappointed. Just what sort of scene was the mythical divine realm like? They all hoped they could go and take a look, but unfortunately, they weren't related to Lin Ming. Like this, time passed until the next day. Lin Ming's brief adventure in the lower realms had lasted for over 4 years, and now it was finally time for this trip to come to an end. Chapter 1391, Seeking an Audience with Divine Dream. Chapter 1391, Seeking an Audience with Divine Dream. Divine Dream Great World. An expensive and fast spirit ship shuttled through the starry skies. Along the way, one could faintly make out the mist-filled world of the Divine Dream Great World's central mainland. This was a land of dream and illusion, filled with wondrous sights everywhere, beautiful to behold. As one of the several largest of the Divine Realm's 3,000 great worlds, the Divine Dream Great World possessed the richest spiritual energy in the entire Divine Realm. The scenery here was correspondingly enchanting. Lin Xiaoge stood within this ship, looking down at all the scenes in the mainland. She would occasionally cheer out, just like a child. Even Demon Shine came out to watch. After 50,000 years, he was finally returning to the Divine Realm, so he was certainly excited by this. With the degree of richness of this heaven and earth origin energy, it should be one of the peak great worlds of the Divine Realm's 3,000 great worlds. How was the ancient Phoenix clan able to establish themselves on such an awesome world? Lin Ming faintly smiled. We aren't at the ancient Phoenix clan. Millimeter? We didn't go to the ancient Phoenix clan? Then where are we? In Demonshine's opinion, Lin Xiaoge was far too weak right now. It would be better for her to join the ancient Phoenix clan first. She would have the protection of a holy land as well as a safe place to train. We've arrived. Lin Ming suddenly said. This trip had taken over a month. If he had used Primordius Heavenly Palace to travel instead, it would have taken less than half the time, but Primordius Heavenly Palace was far too eye-catching. Lin Ming wouldn't casually take it out if he could help it. Demon Shine and Lin Xiaoge looked up to see a vast sea of clouds in the distant horizon. Within this sea of clouds floated thousands of celestial mountains, and these celestial mountains were covered with all sorts of wonderful treasures of the world. The most inferior of these precious treasures still exuded spiritual auras that were hundreds and thousands of times more intense than the most valuable heavenly materials of the Sky Spill continent. A mysterious and dazzling immortal palace floated among these celestial mountains, similar to an illusionary mirage that could disappear at any moment. Spiritual springs surged, coming down in waterfalls that looked like endless bolts of white silk sprinkling down from the heavens. A single drop of this divine nectar, if dropped onto a field of mortal grass, could turn all of it into spiritual herbs. But now, rivers of this water were sprinkling down into the sea of clouds, vitalizing the heaven and earth origin energy in the surroundings. This is. Demon Shine's 3 blue eyes popped wide open, filled with absolute disbelief. This was definitely not a level of strength and prestige that a Holy Land level sect should be able to possess. If a single item from within this sea of clouds was to be dropped in a small world of the divine realm, it would absolutely provoke a bloody and terrifying war as all the small sects struggled for it with their existences on the line. But here, these items were only decorations that were casually strewn about. Lin Xiaoge also oohed and ahed in praise. Her eyes were wide open, looking at as much as she could. In truth, she didn't know what this scenery meant. Even so, this didn't stop a profound and amazed feeling from swelling within her heart. This is Divine Dream Heavenly Palace, the dwelling of Empyrean Divine Dream. Lin Ming slowly said. But as these words fell on Demon Shine's ears, he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood in shock. What did you just say? Empyrean Divine Dream, are you sure? Demon Shine's claws shook. 50,000 years ago, he had followed the Demon Emperor to a mission at the verdant Feather Holy Lands. In the army of 10,000 powerhouses, Demon Shine had been insignificant. To him, an Empyrean was a completely unimaginable existence. Moreover, Empyrean Divine Dream was known as the most terrifying of all Empyreans. It was possible that she was the greatest powerhouse of the entire divine realm. To Demon Shine, such an existence was a god, and Lin Ming had actually led him here to Empyrean Divine Dream's heavenly palace. Demon Shine definitely didn't believe that Lin Ming would bring them here just for some sightseeing. Could it be that Lin Ming had joined Divine Dream Heavenly Palace? Lin Ming, are you joking with me? Did you join Divine Dream Heavenly Palace? No, that shouldn't be true. It said that Divine Dream Heavenly Palace only accepts female disciples, so how could you have possibly joined? Demon Shine had never lost his composure like this before. And beside him, Lin Xiaoge asked, Uncle Demon Shine, what is it? What is this Divine Dream Heavenly Palace? You won't understand if I tell you. Even I cannot describe just how great the status of Empyrean Divine Dream is. In the past, when the Demon Emperor established a 6th grade sect and then ascended, his strength increased by several times in the divine realm. But even during his prime, he wouldn't even have been considered an ant in front of Empyrean Divine Dream. Empyrean Divine Dream might possibly even be the strongest powerhouse of the entire divine realm, the true god of a quadrillion lives. Demon Shine used the Demon Emperor as an example to explain Empyrean Divine Dream's strength to Lin Xiaoge because besides Lin Ming, the most powerful character that she had heard of before was the Demon Emperor. Although Lin Xiaoge found this hard to imagine, she could still faintly make out how magnificent it was. Empyrean, the god of a quadrillion lives. Lin Ming, how do you know Empyrean Divine Dream? Demon Shine placed his paws on Lin Ming's shoulders, forcefully shaking him in his shock and excitement. In his opinion, although Lin Ming did possess a heaven-defying degree of talent, it was still lacking when placed in the context of the entire divine realm. At the very least, he shouldn't be great enough to enter the vision of someone like Empyrean Divine Dream. To a character like Empyrean Divine Dream, even Empyrean descendants were nothing but ordinary juniors not worthy of mention. In her millions of years of life, she had seen countless Empyrean descendants. Only the greatest peak geniuses amongst all Empyrean descendants could attract her attention a little, and that was only an extremely tiny bit. Lin Ming, how could your luck be so great? If you can bring us here, then that definitely means you have some significant relation with Empyrean Divine Dream. Demon Shine couldn't imagine just how Lin Ming had come into contact with Empyrean Divine Dream. Lin Ming said, I joined the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting and made it into the rankings, thus I obtained Empyrean Divine Dream's attention. Lin Ming casually said. In truth, he knew that if it weren't for the pending arrival of the great calamity of humanity, then he wouldn't have attracted the attention of so many Empyreans, no matter how wonderful his results in the first martial meeting were. But now, Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian, Han Kai, and all the others were already recognized as leads in the future great calamity. What rank? Demon Shine's voice grew increasingly high-pitched and frantic. He had also experienced the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting in the past. He had known many people that he considered extraordinary in the past, but when they participated in the first martial meeting, a land of tides that washed away all until the true gems emerged, they weren't even able to pass the preliminaries. If one had to insist on their rankings, they were likely ranked under 1,000,000. However, even that sort of result was enough to be proud of. If Lin Ming could obtain the attention of Empyrean Divine Dream, then he definitely wasn't lower than 1,000,000 in rankings. Second place. Even though Demon Shine was prepared for an answer like this, he still froze solid, harder than stone. Divine Realm First Martial Meeting, second place. This sort of result, was that a result that a human could really accomplish? Heavens! How could this be possible? Lin Ming, you actually came second at the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting? Just what have you been up to in your years in the Divine Realm? Demon Shine's mind blacked out. He could be said to understand Lin Ming to an extent, but even so, he didn't believe that with the level of talent that Lin Ming displayed in the lower realms, he would somehow have placed second in the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting. And at this time, they had arrived at Divine Dream Heavenly Palace. Lin Ming said, let's leave this for later. I have to see Empyrean Divine Dream first. There is some extremely important information that I have to report to her. You can wait outside. As Lin Ming spoke, he left the spirit ship and flew straight towards the depths of Divine Dream Heavenly Palace. Disciple Lin Ming wishes to seek an audience with Empyrean Divine Dream. Lin Ming stood outside Divine Dream Heavenly Palace and spoke to the two female guards. These two women both possessed Holy Lord level cultivations. Divine Dream Heavenly Palace only had a mere several hundred core disciples. With the maids, guards, and other servants added on, there were only several thousand people. Of these people, every single one was outstanding. Enter. At this time, a faintly recognizable force spread to Lin Ming's ears, like the quietest of sighs. This was the sound transmission of Empyrean Divine Dream. Lin Ming was delighted to hear this. He estimated that in the 4 years he was gone, Empyrean Divine Dream should have long ago finished her closed-door seclusion. Without a doubt, Frost Dream should have broken into the Divine Transformation realm much earlier than he did. Lin Ming flew straight into the Heavenly Palace to pay a visit to Divine Dream. After 4 years passed, Divine Dream was still the same as before. She wore a long white dress and there wasn't the tiniest bit of a powerhouse's aura emitting from her body. She seemed just like a mortal woman, but her appearance and temperament were like a blue moon in the highest heavens, as quiet and deep as an iceberg, noble and cold, disallowing anyone from having blasphemous thoughts against her. Standing beside Divine Dream was a young woman who bore a striking resemblance to her. This young girl was Frost Dream. And as Lin Ming thought, Frost Dream had already stepped into the Divine Transformation realm, and even surpassed Lin Ming as she had reached the peak of the early Divine Transformation realm. She was making great progress in stepping into the middle Divine Transformation realm. Frost Dream was Divine Dream's sublime incarnation, and not a true reincarnated soul that had passed through the cycle of samsara. Thus, in order to raise Frost Dream, Divine Dream had to pay an immense amount of resources and care. What is the matter? Empyrean Divine Dream lightly asked. Her eyes swept past Lin Ming's inner world and then her eyebrows pricked up. Oh, you have inherited primordious inheritance from the lower realms? Empyrean Divine Dream's mental perception and acuity was more illuminating than the sun. Lin Ming said, yes, I have gained the recognition of Senior Primordius, thus this junior has inherited the full legacy of Empyrean Primordius. Millimeter, well done. Empyrean divine dream softly said. Then you can now be considered a true descendant of Primordius. Primordius was a marvelous and prodigious person. If it weren't for the matters that occurred 100,000 years ago, then perhaps he truly might have become a true divinity in the future. Lin Ming's heart skipped a beat upon hearing such a high evaluation from Divine Dream. Empyrean Primordius could have become a true divinity. In his mind, Primordius was similar to Divine Dream in strength. Moreover, listening to her tone, she likely placed herself on the same level as Empyrean Primordius. If Primordius had survived to this day, then he would have been close to stepping into the realm of true divinity. Then, what about Divine Dream? Had she seen the realm of true divinity? Or was she already a half step into that fabled realm? Perhaps she was waiting for Frost Dream to mature before directly ascending into a true divinity, becoming a true god of the divine realm. As Lin Ming realized this, he felt that Divine Dream was increasingly unfathomable. Lin Ming, for what matter did you wish to see me? Reporting to Senior, before this junior went to the lower realms, I needed to look for a mortal body for an old friend, thus I went to the Demon Dawn Great World. Then, Lin Ming reiterated his entire bitter experience with Tian Mingzi to Divine Dream, from beginning to end. He spoke of the 9-star heaven pill that Tian Mingzi was refining, the Saint Race spy, and Tian Mingzi hunting him down all the way to the lower realms. He retold the entire story without omitting a single detail. At the start, Empyrean Divine Dream didn't have an expression. But afterwards, her eyebrows wrinkled together. Where is the corpse? Empyrean Divine Dream suddenly said, an ice-cold chill to her words. Lin Ming quickly took out the corpse of the Saint Race spy from his spatial ring. As Divine Dream saw this corpse, a cold light shimmered in her eyes. It truly is the Saint Race. They ruined their cultivation to pass through the God-lamenting wall and now wish to restore their strength with the 9-star heaven pill. The Saint Race's hands have already reached deep into many places within the divine realm, but we actually know nothing about them. Dim and gloomy clouds seemed to cover Divine Dream's face. Lin Ming, you have earned a great merit this time. In the future, when the great calamity of humanity arrives, you will surely be a part of the main force. From this point alone, whether or not you are my disciple, I will put forth my full strength to help raise you. You cultivate dual body and energy, and as for that 9-star heaven pill that you mentioned, I actually possess an incomplete formula for it. I can attempt to help refine it for you to help you make a breakthrough. Chapter 1392, Drastic Change. Chapter 1392, Drastic Change. As Lin Ming heard Empyrean Divine Dream say she would refine the 9-star heaven pill for him, he was ecstatic. Under the current laws of the universe, the 9-star heaven pill by itself was likely insufficient for Lin Ming to break into the 9 stars of the Dao Palace. But even so, it would bring Lin Ming closer to that final step he needed. As he gathered more and more momentum over time, he would eventually break through that barrier. Empyrean Divine Dream said, Lin Ming, I will train you as far as I can, but I also need your word that in the upcoming great calamity, you will do everything in your power, exhausting your entire being to resist the Saint Race. Hair cannot survive without the skin. The divine realm is already the final universe of humanity, and once the divine realm is conquered and destroyed, there will be no foothold for humanity any longer. Every human will devolve into a slave of the Saint Race, and it is likely that we shall be washed away by the river of history. This disciple understands. Lin Ming solemnly nodded. This great calamity concerned the survival of humanity itself. The future of the human race was also his own future. If all of humanity were to degenerate into slaves and the Saint Race were to massacre all human martial artists on sight, then it would be nearly impossible for the still low cultivation Lin Ming to reach the peak of martial arts. You've also brought others here? Empyrean Divine Dream suddenly asked. With her sense, she had already discovered that Lin Ming was coming to Divine Dream Heavenly Palace long before he arrived, and also knew how many people he had brought. Yes, this junior was too abrupt. Because I offended Tian Mingzi, Tian Mingzi has a great world king cultivation and he is even soon to step into the half-step Empyrean realm. If he wishes to move against your friends or family, then even the ancient Phoenix clan will not have the strength to protect them. You may gather all of those close to you. The men will enter vast universe heavenly palace and the women will be kept at my divine dream heavenly palace. I shall look after them, and, if they are of the temperament to walk the road of martial arts, then I may also provide them with certain inheritances and resources. Empyrean Divine Dream readily responded. Lin Ming was overjoyed to hear this. Thank you, Senior Divine Dream. In the time following this, Empyrean Divine Dream began to move. She gathered the materials of the 9-star heaven pill for Lin Ming. Although these materials were extremely difficult for Qian Mingzi to find, Empyrean Divine Dream was able to collect all of them in a mere few months. As for the 9-star heaven pill, Lin Ming didn't begin to refine it. He felt that depending on the 9-star heaven pill alone to break into the boundary of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace was still lacking, he would need to support it with the demon bead essence. Currently, Lin Ming's cultivation was far too weak. He wouldn't be able to absorb much of the demon bead essence and would instead waste it. Thus, the matter of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace was placed to the side. Lin Ming spent most of his time deep in cultivation within Divine Dream Heavenly Palace. As for Empyrean Divine Dream, she took this time to launch a massive cleansing of the divine realm. Her goal was clear: the spies of the saint race. This was a monumentally massive workload and it also had to be carried out in secret. Otherwise, if the saint race spies were to find out and hide, it would be impossible to catch them all. In normal times, this would be impossible to do. The divine realm was far too large and there weren't many saint race spies to begin with. To find them was harder than finding a needle in the endless oceans. But this investigation was personally led by Divine Dream. She would suddenly appear in a land without any indication at all and instantly open the divine dream space, causing everyone to fall into her dreamland. Then, she would probe everyone's spiritual sea with the divine dream lore. Although it was impossible for Divine Dream to instantly search through all the memories of so many people, there were key differences in the spiritual sea of humans and saints, thus Divine Dream was able to search for this using her abilities. The Great World King Holy Lands of all 3,000 Great Worlds were the key targets of this investigation. In particular, those Great World Kings that had a high chance of becoming an Empyrean. This was to prevent a situation like that of Qian Mingzi from ever appearing again. Only Empyrean Divine Dream was capable of such extraordinary methods, and this time, she was serious. Her actions were kept an absolute secret and as she searched through the various holy lands, all news from the inside was strictly blocked out. Not even ordinary World King Holy Lands were let off. Such an investigation was an extremely burdensome matter. Empyrean Divine Dream used a full 2 years to accomplish this. And, she had indeed found several spies of the saint race. This result didn't bring her any happiness at all. Rather, it filled her heart with a cloud of gloomy darkness. This situation had surpassed Divine Dream's expectations. The saint race had far more spies here than she had speculated. This also proved that the saint race already had an approximate understanding of humanity's forces. On the other hand, the human race was completely oblivious to the saint race. Divine Dream didn't know how many true divinity powerhouses the saint race possessed or even how many Empyreans they had. Even though she searched the souls of the saint race spies, she wasn't able to find any valuable information. From this point alone, it was clear that the saint race had already made preparations in advance for something like this to happen. Once they fought, the fate of humanity was likely to be miserable. But, nothing could be done about this. Even if a martial artist harmed their cultivation to pass through the God-lamenting wall, it still wasn't that simple. A true divinity and an Empyrean could do it, but they would have to lose a significant deal of their cultivation. Divine Dream could also send human disciples into the universes of the saint race, but after the cultivations of these disciples were damaged, it would only be sending divine sea and divine transformation powerhouses into the saint race territories. The gains simply wouldn't be worth the losses. The situation was becoming increasingly grim. Empyrean Divine Dream had a premonition that the great calamity wasn't too far away, and yet Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian, and the others still hadn't grown up yet. Just how much time would the heavens give them? Like this, another year passed. Since Lin Ming returned to the divine realm, a total of 3 years had passed. In the long history of the divine realm, A short 3 years was only an instant. Normally, this time period was too short for anything to happen. However, these 3 years were doomed to be recorded in the annals of history. On a sunny day, there was a land surrounded by mountains with a hazy origin energy filling the air. In the bright luster Holy Lands, many young disciples had gathered onto a martial field, prepared for their long day of training. The Bright Luster Holy Lands was established by the Bright Luster World King. They were also the #1 influence of the Bright Luster Great World. The Bright Luster Great World was a middle-ranked Great World, and the scale of the Bright Luster Holy Lands was comparable to the true martial Holy Lands. They were a storied Holy Lands with a 5 million-year history. At this time, there were many intense battles on the martial field. Many elders of the Bright Luster Holy Lands had appeared to direct the moves of the juniors, and even occasionally demonstrating skills to them. This was a sect filled with bustling liveliness and energetic peace. At this time, the chief elder's mind stirred. He turned towards the horizon, a hint of doubt flashing across his face. "What is it?" Several other elders near the chief elder asked him, thinking someone had arrived. "Strange. I felt the bright luster mystic realm trembling just now. It's like something happened in the mystic realm." Many sects possessed their own exclusive mystic realm. These mystic realms often had many treasures, and people could enter these mystic realms to seek the wealth within them. The only problem was that it cost a considerable amount of violet sunstones to open these mystic realms, and it was extremely difficult for any powerhouse at the divine transformation realm or above to pass through the barriers that separated the mystic realms from the divine realm. Thus, these divergent mystic realms had become a smelting trial for the young disciples of many sects. The Bright Luster Mystic Realm was the largest mystic realm of the Bright Luster Great World. Compared to the second largest mystic realm of the Bright Luster Great World, it was at least 10 times larger. The Bright Luster Mystic Realm had a vast and nearly limitless world within that contained countless rich resources. A significant reason for why the Bright Luster Holy Lands were able to rise to their current state was because of the Bright Luster Mystic Realm. But on this day, the Bright Luster Mystic Realm was constantly shaking with tremendous changes occurring inside, as if it would collapse at any given moment. This event alarmed even the Bright Luster World King. "What is going on?" The Bright Luster World King frowned. Even the chief elder was confused. He quickly called together the Divine Sea Realm geniuses to enter and investigate the situation. A massive number of violet sun crystals were inserted into the portal. And just in case, for backup, the Bright Luster World King even sent out a Divine Transformation Realm core disciple. Because of this disciple, the activation cost of the transmission array increased by an entire 9 sun jade. A 9 sun jade was worth 1 trillion violet sun stones. To a great world king Holy Land, this was not a small amount of wealth. But, to spend so many violet sunstones on an investigation showed just how important the Bright Luster Mystic Realm was. The Bright Luster Holy Lands could not allow there to be any problems with it. However, just as the transmission array began to revolve, a brilliant shine radiated outwards, causing the entire transmission array to explode. A terrifying surge of energy exploded outwards. Many of the Divine Sea Realm disciples present were grievously injured in the detonation, and there were even many low-ranking escort disciples that were directly killed. "What is happening?" The chief elder was shocked. This transmission array had been used for the last several million years without incident. The construction cost was extremely high, and it also went through inspections every decade. There shouldn't be, and there had never been, a case of an explosion. He hurriedly moved forwards to see just what had gone wrong. But then another terrifying explosion rang through the air. This time, even space was shattered by the energy. Even though the chief elder had reached the peak of the Holy Lord realm, he was still sent flying backwards and vomiting blood as he was struck by this explosion. "Ha ha ha ha. I'm here. I'm finally here." A reckless laughter echoed through the air. From the torn-apart space, a group of figures flew out. 6 billion years, we've waited for such a long time. The shame of the past defeat will be washed away with your blood. Divine shifting heavens, I will establish my immortal feats of wonder here. This is now the territory of my race. As strong roars and howls filled the air, countless people began gushing forth from the torn space. The disciples of the bright luster Holy Lands were completely dumbfounded. As these voices fell onto the ears of the bright luster Holy Land disciples, they actually had no idea what these shadowy figures were saying. This was because they weren't speaking the native language of the divine realm. And, from these people's auras, any single one of them was stronger than their chief disciple. There were even those among them that could compare with the bright luster world king. This terrifying mob of people could destroy their bright luster Holy Lands at any time. And among these dark figures, a tall youth in white robes smiled as he drifted down from the sky like a spiritual god, looking down at the many bright luster Holy Land disciples underneath him. This youth's aura wasn't formidable at all. He seemed similar to a human divine lord. But even so, the many world king and holy lord level powerhouses near him seemed to faintly respect and revere this youth. This youth calmly lifted his right hand. In the palm of his right hand, a black bead slowly spun about. As this youth appeared, all of the heaven and earth origin energy around him began to violently shake. The laws of the heavens seemed to take this youth as their focal point. As the bright luster world king saw this youth appear, his complexion completely changed. Chapter 1393, The Great Calamity Arrives. Chapter 1393, The Great Calamity Arrives. The cultivation of this youth in front of him wasn't high, but as the bright luster world king looked at him, he could feel a sense of dread and fear in his heart, a sense of creeping unease about what could happen. This terrifying possibility caused the bright luster world king's body to turn ice cold and his palms to sweat. Who are they? How could this be? No one above the divine transformation realm can enter the bright luster mystic realm, so how could they have come out from there? The many disciples of the bright luster Holy Lands wondered this. None of them yet knew what was happening. In the last 3 years, news of the upcoming great calamity had already spread throughout the divine realm. But, no one would first think of the great calamity when something dire happened, because in their subconscious, this event was something on the distant horizon. To them, this was something that might not occur for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. Moreover, even if the great calamity were to arrive, none of those present thought it would begin at their bright luster Holy Lands. As the white-robed youth heard the disciples underneath him talking to themselves, he sneered, "Are all humans so stupid?" What he spoke in was the language of the divine realm, and these words instantly caused the many people below him to grimace. However, when comparing their strength to that of this other party, they could only hold in their anger without any way of speaking back. "Who are you? Why were you in our bright luster mystic realm?" Several bright luster Holy Lands disciples loudly shouted out. The white-robed youth laughed. "You are all really so stupid. Even now, you still have no idea what is happening. Then, let me tell you who I am. I am the good fortune saint son, and the 3,000 worlds of the divine realm will all be the territory of my kingdom in the future." Good fortune saint son? The bright luster Holy Lands disciples barely had time to react when the white-robed youth suddenly raised his hand. A black bead flew out and began to rapidly spin in the air. "Now, with your lowly flesh and blood, become nourishment for the Grand Mist Spirit Bead." Grand Mist Spirit Bead. It really is the Grand Mist Spirit Bead. How is this possible? How could the Grand Mist Spirit Bead be in their hands? The bright luster world king had a vast amount of experience. Although he didn't know about the relations between the Grand Mist Spirit Bead and Empyrean Primordius, he had still heard of this object before. Now, he watched with his own eyes as the Grand Mist Spirit Bead emitted a thick and inky black light, seeming to shroud the entire sky in dark chaos. This scene made the bright luster world king feel as if his own heart were being slowly devoured by darkness. And feeling the terrifying aura that these figures were sending out, the bright luster world king could finally confirm that the saint race had arrived. The great calamity that he thought would come in several hundred thousands of years had actually arrived so soon. "Run away! All disciples scatter and flee!" The bright luster world king roared out. At the same time he didn't hesitate at all and turned around to tear apart the void. But as he thrust out his hand, he felt the power of space repel him, bouncing back his hand. The Grand Mist Spirit Bead had sent out an energy field that locked down the neighboring vicinity of space, making it impossible for him to use the Great Void Shift. A smart decision. But what a pity, it will not change your destiny. The good fortune Saint Sun cruelly smiled as the grand mist spirit bead shot out. The bright luster world king's complexion paled. He launched his movement techniques to the limit, wanting to run out of this domain. And at this time, he heard a cacophony of miserable cries behind him. The grand mist spirit bead had aroused a crimson vortex of flesh and blood. A massive number of core disciples, all characters that the bright luster Holy Lands had spent a great price to raise, were sucked into this flesh and blood vortex, immediately turning into pure flesh and blood essence energy that was then absorbed by the grand mist spirit bead. This horrifying scene was macabre and disturbing. And, the one who had begun all of this, the white-robed youth, was actually watching all of this with a smile on his face. It was like he wasn't cutting down lives of others but plucking flowers from the ground. Two high masters, that bright luster world king will be left to the two of you. With my current cultivation, dealing with the likes of him is still a bit difficult, even if I have the grand mist spirit bead. Alright, haha. Beside the white-robed youth, two grey-robed men nodded. One had a giant head and the other was as thin as a bamboo pole. Although their appearances were strange, they clearly had cultivations at the level of a great world king. If they were placed in the divine realm, they would be characters that could rule a great world. The two great world kings rushed towards the bright luster world king together. The grand mist spirit bead began to shine with an even more demonic and monstrous light. Within his chambers at Divine Dream Heavenly Palace, Lin Ming was closed up in training. During these 3 years he had slowly gathered more and more accumulations, growing increasingly close to the middle divine transformation realm. Divine Sea, divine transformation, divine Lord, every time one rose by a realm, the time required to advance multiplied by several times. At this time, a clarion alarm sounded throughout Divine Dream Heavenly Palace, the grating sound even penetrating into every training chamber. The training chambers were isolated by enchantments to form their own separate space, so as to avoid martial artists being disturbed during their cultivation. If there was an alarm that could sound throughout the training chambers, this was a warning alarm of the highest degree, one that interrupted all martial artists during their seclusion. Unless it was a sect-annihilating event, such an alarm would not be sounded. What is happening? Lin Ming's eyes flashed open from his cultivation, a surprised light shining within them. He couldn't imagine just what events had happened for Divine Dream Heavenly Palace to sound such an alarm. It couldn't be that the great calamity had already arrived, right? Even Lin Ming also subconsciously believed that the great calamity wouldn't arrive for an extremely long time. Compared to the entire history of the divine realm, 10,000 years was an extremely short period of time. Although the great calamity was said to be soon approaching, this soon approaching would often need tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. Lin Ming's figure flashed and he appeared at Divine Dream Heavenly Palace. As he appeared, he saw a great commotion of elders and disciples rapidly heading towards the assembly hall. Lin Ming's heart also flashed with a moment of anxiety. He followed the crowd towards the assembly hall. Empyrean Divine Dream was already waiting at the assembly hall. She had a solemn and dignified look. After the main figures arrived, Empyrean Divine Dream finally spoke. The great calamity has arrived. The first disruption of the God-lamenting war was at the bright luster Holy Lands divergent mystic realm. In one day, the bright luster Holy Lands was exterminated and the bright luster world king also perished in battle. In 5 days, the saint race thoroughly captured the entirety of bright luster Great World's central mainland. Countless martial artists have been slaughtered and innumerable lives have been wiped away. Great calamity. How could it have come so quickly? Only several years have passed. We aren't prepared and yet the great calamity has come. Although the disciples of Divine Dream Heavenly Palace were elites amongst the elites, even they felt panicked upon hearing this news. Lin Ming took a deep breath, tightening his fists as he grimaced. Divergent mystic realms were originally transitionary spaces from the divine realm to other universes. If the God-lamenting wall was torn apart somewhere, it would often be at these divergent mystic realms first. How could it be so fast? I'm only at the divine transformation realm. Even if I am invincible amongst those at my level, when facing the older generation, the The most I can handle is a half-step, Holy Lord. And in this great calamity, that level of strength isn't even a tiny splash in the ocean. Thinking back to the great calamity of the divine realm 6 billion years ago, that was a struggle of Empyreans with even true divinities taking action. Even the lowliest soldier had a Holy Lord level boundary. A half-step Holy Lord could only be considered common cannon fodder. In this great calamity, Lin Ming simply didn't have any use or role to play. Let alone tempering himself in this great calamity, he only could watch as humanity fought with the saints. This caused Lin Ming to feel very unwilling. Damn it, how could it be like this? If I had another several hundred years, then as long as I could reach the Holy Lord realm or a half-step Holy Lord cultivation, at least I wouldn't be as useless and powerless as I am now. Lin Ming didn't want his destiny to be decided by others. Now, if he wanted to rapidly enhance his strength, the only method was to enter a time enchantment and train. However, in a time enchantment, the laws were distorted. If one couldn't properly perceive the laws, then that would make cultivating there far less effective. Empyrean divine dream didn't have any expression. It was only when the hurried discussion began to quiet down that she spoke again. For this expedition of the Saint race, the greatest powerhouse they have sent out so far is a half-step Empyrean. Even so, that is more than enough to annihilate a middle-level world without an Empyrean present. In particular, in this war, there has been a person sent out called the Good Fortune Saint Sun. His Saint Lord cultivation is equal to our human divine Lord realm. This person possesses a mysterious bead that might possibly be the Grand Mist Spirit bead. Although he only has a Saint Lord level cultivation, he can still fight with a World King Master. His level of talent is simply unimaginable. As Empyrean Divine Dream spoke, her eyes fell onto Lin Ming. Lin Ming's mind shook. Grand Mist Spirit Bead. When Empyrean Primordius lost the Grand Mist Spirit Bead, did it fall into the hands of this Good Fortune Saint Sun? In that moment, Lin Ming's mood was extremely complex. He remembered the final words that Empyrean Primordius had left behind in Primordius' heavenly palace. To lose the Grand Mist Spirit Bead is the greatest mistake of my life. If there is ever a day when it is possible, you must retake the Grand Mist Spirit Bead and return it to the human race, and seek a paradise pure lands for the orphaned god race. Lin Ming clenched his fists together. He had to retake the Grand Mist Spirit Bead one day. However, he was simply far too weak right now. Chapter 1394, Negotiations of the Saint Race. Chapter 1394, Negotiations of the Saint Race. Without a care for how unprepared humanity was, or how much confidence they lacked, the fact was that the great calamity had arrived early. The bright luster great world became a battlefield. Whether it was the human race or the saint race, both of them seemed to subconsciously agree to not send out Empyrean powerhouses to join the battle. The highest cultivation amongst them was only at the Holy Lord realm. This was now a conflict that hadn't reached the stage of all-out war. The saint race only put forth probing hands, and humanity seemed to be too scared, lacking the courage to launch a full-scale assault. They were well aware that once Empyreans joined the fray, that was when the ultimate showdown would begin. But now, humanity didn't even know how many true divinity powerhouses the saints possessed, so how could they possibly fight them? In this battle, Divine Lord and Holy Lord powerhouses made up the main force while World Kings and half-step Empyreans also participated. In such a battlefield it was impossible for growing geniuses like Lin Ming to go and fight, otherwise if there was an accident, the losses to humanity would be immeasurable. The fight continued for half a month. By now, the name of a saint powerhouse had spread throughout humanity. He was the Good Fortune Saint Sun. This person possessed a Saint Lord realm cultivation, a realm equal to a Divine Lord cultivation. But, with this cultivation, he was actually able to defeat an ordinary world king in combat. He even had the ability to survive the assault of a great world king. He held a black demon bead in his hand, and all martial artists below the Holy Lord realm, no matter how many there were, would be instantly twisted to shreds by this object. Their bodies would turn into pure flesh and blood essence that was then absorbed by the black demon bead. Such a terrifying character had everyone panicking in fright. A divine lord that could fight a world king? Just what sort of concept was that? A divine lord and a world king were separated by the entire Holy Lord realm. This was an even greater difference than divine transformation to a holy lord. The human supreme elders wanted to immediately strike out and kill this good fortune saint son. However, during their battles upon the bright luster great world, they found that the good fortune saint son had powerhouses protecting him from behind. And, these mysterious saint race powerhouses actually didn't take action. Rather, they only watched the saint son fight. This sort of feeling was as if the saints were using this war to sharpen the good fortune saint son. The characters that were supporting him were far too strong, thus even the Empyreans that wanted to kill him grew fearful and retreated. This result was all reported to Empyrean Divine Dream. Damn, just what do the saints want? The saint race Empyreans were holding still and the human Empyreans didn't dare to rashly move. After all, the ones who feared this war were the humans. Humanity had less Empyrean powerhouses than the saints did, and there was no need to mention true divinity powerhouses. The saint race likely had more than one true divinity master while humanity had 0. They waited 3.6 billion years, and now that the barrier between our universes has torn apart, they still haven't come at us in full force. Rather, they've only been sending half-step Empyrean powerhouses. Just what sort of tricks are they trying to play? Empyrean vast universe paced back and forth. In the face of humanity's life or death crisis, even he had lost all his former calm. Perhaps, they are not yet prepared, or it could be that the good fortune saint sovereign is still healing from his wounds. Empyrean Divine Dream quietly said from beside Empyrean vast universe. Empyrean vast universe's thoughts stirred. It really might be that he hasn't yet recovered. 100,000 years ago, the good fortune saint sovereign violated the laws of the 33-layered heavens to tear apart the god-lamenting wall in order to send saint Empyrean powerhouses to kill Primordius. Because of his actions, he received the backlash of the 33-layered heavens' great Tao laws. These are wounds that originate from the great Tao and should take tens of thousands of years to heal. Any method of restoring himself shouldn't work, including even entering a space-time enchantment to speed up the recovery of his wounds. Currently, the good fortune saint sovereign should still have several tens of thousands of years before he can do anything. Before then, his strength should be equal to an Empyrean's. However, even if the good fortune saint sovereign hasn't recovered, if the numerous Empyreans of the saint race were to attack together, it would be nearly impossible for us to resist. Moreover, without a doubt, the saint race has more than one true divinity, so how come they aren't doing anything? It might be impossible, but could the saint race be wanting to use this war to temper that good fortune saint son? Empyrean vast universe couldn't understand what was happening, and even Empyrean Divine Dream was deep in silent thought. This was a war that concerned the survival of their race, and to cause this mess just to send out their saint son to adventure was far too childish and ridiculous an action. The saint race definitely wouldn't do something so stupid. The good fortune saint son should only be taking the opportunity to temper himself. There must be some other reason that the saints hadn't yet launched an all-out war. It was just that they didn't know what this reason was. The war entered a stalemate. In a situation where Empyreans on both sides didn't take action, the good fortune saint son had far too much limelight. His momentum was nearly unstoppable, and although his strength was inferior to a great world king's, the amount of death and destruction he caused actually far outstripped that of a great world king. It was all because of the appearance of the Grand Mist Spirit Bead. With this bead, all powerhouses in a great area could be immediately killed. This was something that a great world king powerhouse couldn't accomplish. Those that were killed by the good fortune saint son were at least at the divine lord realm. Any one of his victims, if placed in a holy land level influence, could at least be a palace elder or a branch elder. The saint race also had the intention of helping the good fortune saint son accumulate military merits. In the most exaggerated performance, he brought an army of 1,000 peak holy lords to attack the eastern region of the bright luster great world, destroying dozens of star regions and rampaging over 100 trillion miles, killing countless human martial artists. If this were to continue, then all the powerhouses of the bright luster great world would be killed off. Many human martial artists were nearly frightened to death by the mere mention of the good fortune sun. They found it hard to eat and sleep in peace. And besides those of the bright luster great world, many other martial artists were scared that it would be their turn after the bright luster great world was destroyed. Why haven't our Empyreans taken action yet? How come they are allowing that good fortune saint sun to be so rampant? Some martial artists asked, puzzled. Don't be so naive. The saints possess more Empyreans than we do. If true Empyreans join the battle, our forces will still be suppressed. In the end, we cannot fight the saint race. We don't have as many Empyreans as they do, and our geniuses are also crushed by their geniuses. Of humanity's budding young geniuses, there was only Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian, Frost Dream, and a mere several others. In this war, because humanity's geniuses had cultivations that were too low, they didn't step on the wider battlefield, so the good fortune saint sun had ended up outshining them. Why would you help praise your enemies to ruin the momentum and prestige of your own people? Our geniuses have yet to grow, and Lin Ming, Frost Dream, and Xiao Moxian are all geniuses that humanity rarely sees even in 100 million years. I don't believe that Lin Ming will be any worse than the good fortune saint sun once he grows. There were many martial artists that were fans of Lin Ming and Divine Dream. They weren't willing to listen to others say that the geniuses of the saint race far surpassed them. I also hope that what you say is true, but just think about it. The good fortune saint sun only has a late saint lord realm cultivation, but he can already defeat an ordinary world king. And how about Frost Dream and Lin Ming? During the past first martial meeting of the divine realm, they were both middle and late divine sea martial artists and comparable to weak divine lords. Now, compare the difference between the divine sea and divine lord realms and the difference between the divine lord and world king realms. Just think about which one is bigger, and there shouldn't be a need for me to say anything further. I also heard that the good fortune saint sun possesses the grand mist spirit bead, that is the #1 top treasure of the 33 layered heavens, and what do Lin Ming and Frost Dream have? I've even heard others say that this good fortune saint sun will become a true divinity in the future. The continuous victories of the saint race left humanity feeling pressed breathless, gasping for air. And if the appearance of the good fortune saint sun was any indication of the saint race's future, that meant they had more powerhouses than clouds in the skies. An extreme genius combined together with the #1 treasure of the universe. It was hard to imagine just what achievements the good fortune saint sun would have in the future. How could humanity contend with a new true divinity? By relying on Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian, Frost Dream, and the others. Even their fans felt a bit afraid for them. The war continued onwards, and the human martial artists of the bright luster great world fell into an increasingly perilous state. As the bright luster great world neared complete annihilation, many Empyreans found it hard to stay still. Losing tens or hundreds of thousands of divine lords to the saint race wasn't a fatal number to the massive divine realm, but tiny numbers quickly snowballed. Once the saint race slaughtered their way forth with unstoppable momentum and began nibbling away at the mid-level martial artists of humanity, then humanity would lose the foundation to train Empyreans from. Once that happened, as long as many Empyreans died in battle, then humanity's future would fall into utter ruins. We must fight. An all-out war. I have no idea just what game the saint race is playing, but I know that if this continues, then humanity will lose all their confidence. If we are to engage in total war at that time, then it's possible we will be defeated. An Empyrean seriously said at a meeting of Empyreans. The defeats at the bright luster great world resulted in not just the loss of some human divine lords and holy lords. There were many star regions and continents, and most importantly, there was the damage that was caused to humanity's confidence. Once the belief of inevitable loss was carved into their bones, humanity would then fall into a quagmire of chaos and unruliness, slowing moving towards ruin. At Mount Potala, over 100 human Empyreans had gathered together. A storm was brewing. Even though the time was not yet ripe, everyone knew that a great war was inevitable. That's right, we cannot sit aside and do nothing any longer. You and I are of the same race. For humanity's sake, why would we fear war? Humanity was a selfish and greedy race. This was a characteristic of all intelligent life. In a situation without external threats, they would often fall into infighting. But, if truly faced with a life or death moment, then this situation would actually stimulate the bravery and camaraderie of humans. Once a race was fully united as one, that was a truly terrifying force. Over 100 Empyreans gathered together. Over the past few days, even god-beasts had appeared in the skies above Mount Potala. These terrifying god-beasts spread their roars for millions of miles, causing the minds of those who heard them to tremble. Lin Ming also followed Empyrean divine dream to Mount Potala. This scene of Empyreans and god-beasts was similar to that of 3.6 billion years ago. Lin Ming took a deep breath. Has the great battle arrived like this? This is too fast, it's like I've been living a dream. He never imagined that even though he had been training day and night in preparation for the great calamity, that when the great calamity actually arrived, there would actually be nothing he could do. Lin Ming clenched his fists together. He was unwilling to accept this. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In the skies, a divine light surged. A titanic, primal-looking stone platform tore through space, appearing in the skies above Mount Potala. This was the announcement platform, where the roles of many Empyreans would be assigned. 3.6 billion years ago, Empyrean Divine Seal had stood upon the Divine Seal altar and commanded the masses, assigning everyone their duties. Now, this present scene was also similar. The only difference was that no one was able to reach the same heights that Empyrean Divine Seal had reached. And even an extreme character like Empyrean Divine Seal had perished in the Great Calamity. Now, humanity didn't have someone like Empyrean Divine Seal on their side, so how could they possibly emerge victorious? Lin Ming felt his mind fill with a strong sense of powerlessness. In fact, this sort of powerlessness also appeared in the hearts of many other humans. This was a war with an extremely low chance of winning. However, at this time, another unexpected turning point occurred. The Saint race had requested negotiations, and the place where negotiations would be held was Mount Potala, where over 100 Empyreans had gathered. Chapter 1395, Fears of the Saint Race. Chapter 1395, Fears of the Saint Race. The Saints wish to negotiate with us. As this news was spread out, many Empyreans were stunned. 100 Empyreans stood atop the 100,000-foot-high announcement platform. The terrifying pressure of their combined auras caused even the celestial bodies in the skies to tremble. They had originally held onto a determination to engage in war without fear of death, but because of the sudden proposal of negotiations from the Saint race, all of these thoughts disappointed. If possible, humanity didn't wish to start a war of death. However, why would the Saints want to start negotiations? If they planned on fighting until the extermination of humanity, then there was no need for negotiations, they would simply start their all-out slaughter. If there were negotiations, then there would likely be talks of peace. Just what did the Saints fear? From the start, the Saint race didn't begin an all-out war. Rather, they sent out World King, Holy Lord, and Holy Lord level powerhouses. The highest captain of the forces they sent out so far had only possessed a half-step Empyrean cultivation. The Empyreans had only been used so far to protect the good fortune Saint Sun and had been still the entire time. As for true divinity powerhouses, they hadn't been seen at all. It was clear from this that the Saints didn't wish to start an all-out battle with humanity as soon as they arrived. Thus, the Empyreans wanted to know just why the Saints weren't willing to begin an all-out war. If they knew this point and were able to find out the bottom line of the Saint race, then they would be able to obtain the greatest benefits during the negotiations. The deadline for the negotiations was in 1 month. For this period of time, the Saints and humanity fell into a strange and short period of peace. On the bright luster great world, the armies of the Saint race no longer spread outwards. Humanity also retreated back into their safe territories, not coming into conflict with the Saints. The 100-plus Empyreans were still gathered at Mount Potala, staying up the entire day to discuss countermeasures. However, they weren't able to come up with anything conclusive. If there had to be a reason for all of this, then it was that humanity didn't know anything about the Saints. Humph. The Saint race is just trying to play tricks. In truth, they likely aren't much stronger than our human race, And even though they have a true divinity powerhouse, that true divinity powerhouse already overdrew his essence energy in the war 100,000 years ago. Now, they are probably only at the ordinary Empyrean level. As for the others of the saint race, if they are compared to us, then if we are both engaged in a true life or death dual war, it's unknown just which side will ultimately perish, or which side will be able to obtain any advantage. Stealing our resources is important, but if they wanted to steal our resources at the cost of their lives, then even those saint Empyreans will have to think it over. The one who spoke was a large and robust bald fellow who wore a shimmering red robe. His title was Fire God, and he was also an Empyrean powerhouse. If someone were to dare title themselves Fire God, then that meant this person's attainments in the fire laws stood at the peak of the divine realm. This person's temperament was the same as the laws he cultivated, fierce and violent, just like fire. He stood in the offensive camp of Empyreans, and didn't agree with the other Empyreans who decided to not do anything. He advocated directly engaging in a mass slaughter and struggling to the end with the saints. The speculations of Fire God were what many other Empyreans of the divine realm were thinking. It also seemed to be the most reasonable explanation so far. Perhaps, the saint race wasn't as terrifying as they had imagined. If the saints and humanity were to wage war, they might not necessarily lose. However, in 3 days, these suspicions were all refuted. After 3 days, the entire bright luster great world surged with a divine light, with energy tyrannically gushing forth. The tear in the God-lamenting wall began to expand. At first, this tear was only in the bright luster mystic realm, but soon it expanded to cover the entire sky. Looking at the starry skies of the bright luster great world from afar, one could see terrifying surging currents, wild and chaotic. The entire sky was swallowed up by a massive black hole. This black hole slowly spun around, seeming to lead to another world. At the other end of this wormhole was the world of the saint race. From within this swirling black hole, terrifying life forms roared out. These roars didn't need any medium to spread through the starry heavens, passing out to the trillions of celestial bodies outside. Moreover, even if one was extremely far away, these sounds still caused one's heart to shake. After 1 day, a massive claw stretched out from that swirling black hole, ripping apart the endless skies like a piece of ragged cloth. From the darkness, immense phantoms gushed forth. Their figures were fierce and vicious, and they grasped heavy swords or carried spears. Each one emitted a horrifying pressure, making it difficult to breathe. On the 5th day, the loud roars peaked to the limit, as if 1,000 god beasts were roaring out together. Their roars were mixed in with the crashing sound of metal shackles, dreadful and titanic. The sound spread throughout the entire central mainland of the bright luster great world, causing the void to collapse. Even the human martial artists near the bright luster great world felt their bodies shake, their blood energy surging upwards. Those with weaker cultivations even vomited blood, extremely wounded. As the human Empyreans heard this sound, all of them were silent. Not even that raging fire god uttered a single word. Another Empyrean meeting was urgently held. The atmosphere of this meeting was one of dread and fearfulness. That terrifying aura, that terrifying sound, those were absolutely not something that could be randomly sent out. In these days, there were absolutely at least 100 Empyrean-level existences that had entered the bright luster great world. As for that final sound, it was possible that it was sent out from a true divinity life form. It wasn't necessarily a saint race supreme elder, but there was a chance it could be a true divinity-level god beast. True divinity. Before the great calamity arrived, when the saint race was spoken of, although it was already acknowledged that the saints possessed a true divinity powerhouse, this was an extremely distant matter even to Empyreans. But now, as they felt the reality of a true divinity's pressure, all of them felt a deep desolate fear. Fire God and many other Empyreans had strange complexions, all of them unable to speak. Divine Dream sighed. The saint race's strength cannot be doubted any longer. They absolutely exist above humanity. They have more universes under their control, and in terms of resources or sheer numbers, humanity cannot compare with them. Before this, I also wished to find the reason for why the saint race feared engaging in all-out war with humanity. 7 days ago, I had the corpse of a Saint Race World King shipped back from the front lines. I searched his soul using the divine dream laws in hopes that I could find out from that corpse's memories just what the Saint Race was fearing, but in the end I failed to find anything at all. Now, all of you use your own methods to give it a try. In the war on the Bright Luster Great World battlefield, even the Saint Race had World King powerhouses perishing. However, as Empyrean Divine Dream used a soul-searching technique to probe the Saint World King's spiritual sea, she discovered that all memories related to the Saint Race's internal workings were sealed away, completely impossible to read. The person who sealed these memories was extremely strong, and compared to Divine Dream, they had a far more familiar understanding of the Saint Race's spiritual sea and soul characteristics. As for Divine Dream, she was familiar with the human soul. Empyrean Divine Dream waved her hand and a corpse flew out from her spatial ring. This was the Saint Race World King. Ever since the war between humanity and the Saints erupted, Empyrean Divine Dream hadn't taken a single moment of rest. To an Empyrean, taking several years without a moment of rest wouldn't influence them at all, but it would still place psychological pressure on them. Even Empyrean Divine Dream would feel somewhat mentally exhausted from all the work she had been doing. Divine Dream, if even you cannot search the memories, then perhaps we won't be much better. Near Empyrean Divine Dream, a grey-clothed old man spoke. In terms of the soul, this old man was also extremely skilled. Although he said that, he still walked over to the Saint World King corpse to give it a try. Even though the situation was impossible, he still had to give it a try. Perhaps he really might be able to unravel the seal on the memories. Facing the Saint Race World King's corpse, the grey-clothed old man raised his hands and instantly formed hundreds of seals. 7 black skulls flew into the World King's corpse, galloping around his body. After a long time, the grey-clothed old man suddenly shook and he stepped back from the World King's corpse. He shook his head over and over again, saying, "No, it's not possible. Even I cannot find out anything. All I can confirm is that there are memories sealed within him and not erased. If memories were erased, they would definitely cause damage to the soul." To the Saint Race, even a World King powerhouse was considered a decent figure, so their memories naturally wouldn't be erased so easily. As the grey-clothed old man failed, many others tried their own unique soul-searching techniques, using their complete understandings of the soul in their attempts. Even so, they were far inferior to Divine Dream and the grey-clothed old man. Some people hoped there would be an infinitesimally small chance that they would somehow succeed. But without a doubt, all of them were completely defeated in their attempts. Finally, this meeting ended without any result. The deadline given by the Saint Race for negotiations drew increasingly near. There were even some people who suspected that these negotiations were simply a facade laid down by the Saint Race, a trap to capture all the human Empyreans in a single attempt. There were also some people who believed that the Saint Race was using the negotiation deadline as an excuse to delay for time in order to slowly gather their forces. Once the month passed, they would not negotiate and instead launch an all-out offensive. Everyone had different opinions. Lin Ming was also staying at Mount Potala. He was silent as he listened to all these discussions. He had heard that Empyrean Divine Dream brought back a World King's corpse from the front lines and had wanted to search their soul using the soul-searching technique. But, in the end, she had failed. Even Empyrean Divine Dream was defeated. "Do you think we have a chance of succeeding?" Lin Ming asked Mo Eversnow. "We can try, whether it is the spiritual sea of saints or humans, in front of the magic cube, a divine soul instrument that surpasses the highest laws of the universe. All souls are the same. It is extremely important to the negotiations that we find out just why the saints are too afraid to commit to all-out war." Chapter 1396, Reading the Memories. Chapter 1396, Reading the Memories. Mount Potala had 3 large clusters of monasteries. The first 2 groups were managed by the 2 resident Empyrean powerhouses of Mount Potala. One was the monasteries of calming prayers and the other was the monasteries of combat. As for the last cluster of monasteries, that was called Genesis Mountain. It was the residency area of Mount Potala's layman disciples as well as visitors. There were 360,000 residences that were divided into 720 central monasteries. Such a massive group of monasteries could actually be contained within a single spatial ring. This was why the idea of spatial genesis first originated from Mount Potala. Empyrean Divine Dream currently resided deep within Genesis Mountain, living at one of the 4 great heavenly king palaces. All of the young Buddhist priests and monks had left this massive palace. Now the entire palace had been replaced with disciples of Divine Dream Heavenly Palace, all of them women. Empyrean Divine Dream had just finished bathing and changing her clothes. As her rosy red feet walked through the main hall, every step she took caused ripples to spread out from her. In truth, if one looked carefully, they could see that her feet weren't even touching the ground. Even the so-called vision of a fairy riding the waves couldn't compare with her at all. "Honorable Master, Lin Ming desires an audience with you," a white-clothed female disciple said as she bowed. "Lin Ming." Empyrean Divine Dream's thoughts stirred. Let him enter. Whether it was Divine Dream Heavenly Palace or Genesis Mountain, Empyrean Divine Dream's inner palace was a land that only women could pass through. However, Lin Ming was the only exception. After obtaining the reply, Lin Ming stepped into the Heavenly King Palace. As he stepped into the corridors, he could feel a rich and pure aura of combat rush up towards him. He looked all around himself. Whether it was the walls or the ground, everything was paved in neatly ordered red stone bricks. These bricks were engraved with faint marks. These were the Buddhist runes. Buddhist runes were a type of the great Tao seals. They formed a self-contained system and were extremely mysterious. And these stone bricks were not formed from ordinary methods. Rather, they were timeless god stones that were fired and tempered in demonic blood. Buddhists were compassionate, but that didn't mean they wouldn't take lives. In fact, the path of Buddhism also had specialized war Buddhas. In their faith, they had Asura gods that determined the life and death of others. If someone of the demonic path could not be converted, then those of the Buddhist path would directly eliminate them. All of the stone bricks beneath Lin Ming's feet and around him were soaked in demonic blood. The stone bricks fired in this demonic blood could gather and exude murderous and violent auras. If someone with a shaky mentality were to step here, illusions would crowd their mind as they walked and they would eventually fall into illusion. But, if someone with a firm heart and mind were to walk through these halls, they could actually temper their thoughts. If they were a disciple of Buddhism, they could even use this to train their Buddhist nature. Calm, forbearance, Zen. These were all aspects of a Buddhist disciple's Buddhist nature. What a magnificent Mount Potala. Even walking through these corridors can be used for training. If a lonely ghost were to wander here, their soul would be flushed and scattered by the vivid blood energy here. This sort of inside heritage is truly terrifying. Lin Ming already knew that Mount Potala had a history of 3.6 billion years, and had even experienced the last great calamity. However, only by entering the true depths of Mount Potala today did he deeply understand just how unfathomable their background was. If these floor tiles were placed in a World King Holy Land, although they wouldn't be priceless treasures, the cost to create them would still be mind-boggling. Even so, Mount Potala only used them to pave the floor and walls. This was because they had accumulated all of these paved stones over the course of 3.6 billion years. As Lin Ming arrived at Empyrean Divine Dream's inner palace, he respectfully bowed. Disciple Lin Ming greets Senior Divine Dream. What is it? Divine Dream looked towards Lin Ming. Lin Ming humbly said, this disciple wishes to borrow the corpse of the Saint Race World King. Lin Ming directly explained his purpose for coming. He had a relatively high degree of trust towards Empyrean Divine Dream. He even thought that if the true final battle were to erupt and humanity was about to engage in its final great war, he would give the magic cube to Empyrean Divine Dream. Although the magic cube was a precious treasure to him, the survival of the human race was far more important. Eggs could not hatch without a nest. If humanity were destroyed, then all that would be left was the divine transformation realm Lin Ming. He would lose the foothold of his foundation. His family and wives and everyone he knew would be completely exterminated. Oh! Divine Dream looked towards Lin Ming with a somewhat incredulous expression. Then, after a brief period of silence, Without saying a word, she waved her hand and sent the World King's corpse flying towards Lin Ming. Take it. Empyrean Divine Dream's decisiveness surprised Lin Ming. He didn't get to use the excuse he had prepared earlier. Thank you, Senior. Empyrean Divine Dream pointed a finger towards a side temple. Whatever it is you wish to do, you may close up there to do it. With that, Empyrean Divine Dream casually turned and left, leaving this area of the palace to Lin Ming. As he entered, he found that there was a wondrous array formation within, seeming as if it formed a separate small world. There wouldn't be any worry that he would be spied on by someone. Senior Divine Dream has the style of a true leader. Mo Eversnow said from within the magic cube space, the average person would have asked you why you wanted that corpse and what you were planning to do with it. After all, it's unreasonable to ask for a corpse if you can't discover anything from it. But Divine Dream didn't ask you any questions at all because she trusted you and knew that if you wanted that corpse, there was definitely a reason for it. With your cultivation, you shouldn't be able to accomplish anything with that corpse, so if you had the confidence to probe it, that must mean that you have something that far surpasses your own boundary. In other words, one of your greatest secrets. Thus, Empyrean Divine Dream simply didn't ask you and directly gave you the corpse, even giving you such a place to close up in. It seems so. Lin Ming nodded. If someone wanted to take his secret as their own, that person could only be called a fierce and ambitious character. But someone like Empyrean Divine Dream had a mind and viewpoint as wide as the universe. Only such a person could lead humanity through these times and unite all influences together. To have such a leader was truly the good luck of humanity. Lin Ming felt a deep sense of admiration towards Empyrean Divine Dream. Whether it was the act of sundering her own soul to reincarnate an avatar in order to break through to true divinity, or whether it was leading humanity to overcome this great calamity, everything she did required tremendous courage and daring. Lin Ming used his divine sense to hold the corpse of the Saint World King in the air. Mo Eversnow also appeared from the magic cube space. She floated in front of Lin Ming, her long hair waving about as a divine light flashed between her eyebrows. Activating the magic cube and reading the memories of a world king required them to undo the seals on this powerhouse's memories. This wasn't an easy task at all and required the joint help of Mo Eversnow. Lin Ming's connection with the magic cube was becoming increasingly close, but he was still far from being able to stimulate the magic cube by himself. The appearance of the good fortune Saint Sun had caused a sense of impending doom and crisis to swell up within Lin Ming. The good fortune Saint Sun only had a Saint Lord boundary and yet he could already activate the Grand Mist Spirit Bead. And for the good fortune Saint Sovereign to allow the good fortune Saint Sun to use the Grand Mist Spirit Bead, this proved that the saints held a deep sense of trust towards him. Even though they were both considered juniors of their races, the good fortune Saint Sun was far ahead of Lin Ming. How could Lin Ming admit defeat just like this? If he wanted to overcome this great calamity, then what he first needed to do was obtain complete control of the magic cube. With a deep breath, the Grand Mist Battle Spirit shot out from between Lin Ming's eyebrows. The dark gold Grand Mist Battle Spirit had already taken on a faintly blue hue. This meant that he was approaching the level of a Blue Soul Battle Spirit. With the support of the Grand Mist Battle Spirit, the magic cube within Lin Ming's body began to tremble. Mo Eversnow's expression was also dignified. She formed seals over and over with her hands and flew into Lin Ming's inner world, helping stabilize his control. The current Mo Eversnow was growing at an incomprehensible rate. It was hard to speculate just where her limit was. At this time, from deep within Lin Ming's dantian, a black light shined out. Lin Ming could feel that the magic cube within his body was moving. The runes that patterned the surface of the magic cube seemed to come to life. All sorts of glittering seals floated out, flying into the surrounding space. These seals didn't have any strength poured into them, but as they danced in the air they actually caused the void to tremble. As long as Lin Ming poured enough strength into them, they could crush apart all space. Go! Lin Ming thrust his hands forwards. The many seals flew into the corpse of the Saint World King, submerging into his spiritual sea. In that instant, Lin Ming felt his mind shake. Countless chaotic memories howled towards him. His body shook and his face paled. Lin Ming, Mo Eversnow said, somewhat worried. With Lin Ming's current level of strength, it was risky to directly read the memories of a world king even with her help. If he suffered an accident when rushing into the tumultuous flow of memories, then he would lose himself and would be unable to separate his memories from the memories of this other person. This was a completely different scenario from reading Tian Ming's memories. The memories held within Tian Ming's avatar were only that of the tiniest wisp of his soul. And now, these were the complete memories of a world king. In the raging river of memories, Lin Ming seemed to live through the life of that saint world king. In the chaos, he saw many scenes, all of them incomparably lifelike, as if he had experienced all of this himself. In that instant, his eyes dimmed and he nearly lost himself, thinking he was that saint world king. Mo Eversnow's heart clenched. At this time, the grand mist battle spirit sparkled from between Lin Ming's eyebrows. That nearly faded grand mist battle spirit blazed out like a lit beacon, showing the path for Lin Ming. Immediately, Lin Ming's eyes were restored to pure brightness. Mo Eversnow let out a long breath of relief. In terms of will, the average person truly couldn't compare with Lin Ming. Lin Ming silently looked through these memories. From birth to adulthood, he watched the growth of the saint world king. This was millions of times more informative than the information gleaned from the fuzzy soul search technique. It was almost the same as Lin Ming reliving the life of this saint world king. This process was extremely slow, it required a great deal of energy and a very long period of time. Even though Lin Ming's will was formidable and he had studied the divine dream law, such a great use of energy still caused his lips to pale and his face to appear like white paper. Mo Eversnow silently placed her hand on the hollow of Lin Ming's back, supporting him. "I've found it, it's here." Lin Ming discovered the many sealed memories of the saint world king. With a loud roar, the grand mist battle spirit was stimulated to the limit. The magic cube seals hurtled towards them, followed by a loud ringing explosion. Lin Ming's body shook and blood began to flow out from his nose. The saint world king's corpse was suddenly flung away. Lin Ming collapsed to the floor, heaving in great gulps of air. "How was it?" Mo Eversnow hurriedly asked. "I've found it. I discovered a great deal of information about the saint race and even discovered just what they are fearing. Before the God-lamenting wall dividing our world and the saint races collapsed, the God-lamenting wall dividing the worlds of the saints and the spiriters had already long disintegrated. Currently, the saint race and the soul race are like water and fire, they can break out into all-out war at any time. The attention of the saint race's true divinity powerhouses has been diverted towards the soul race, and they don't even dare to casually sacrifice Empyreans to fight us. Not just that, but the saint race's current state is far more complex than what we had imagined. The current state of the saints is more complex than we thought. Mo Eversnow looked towards Lin Ming. "What is their situation like?" Lin Ming said, "The saint race isn't a single monolithic entity. While they do have more than one true divinity, these true divinities are not as united as we first assumed. Humanity only has the single divine realm universe, but the saint race has many universes under their control, and their true divinities are spread throughout them. And, between these universes, there is also the God-lamenting wall that divides them. Moreover, it seems that because of the situation of the Grand Mist Spirit Bead, the true divinities are unable to come to an agreement. Now, they are only barely managing to cobble together an alliance because of the external threat of the soul race. Prior to this, it was the good fortune Saint Sovereign who wished to invade the divine realm alone and take sole possession of it, to steal away the most resources and become the absolute Saint Sovereign of the Saint. The other Saint Sovereigns definitely aren't willing to see this happen, and now that the Spiriters have diverted their attention, when that is coupled with all the disputes of interests amongst them, this has caused the good fortune Saint Sovereign's long-laid plans to come to a complete halt. Lin Ming had only probed the memories of a Saint World King. Although there were many secrets that he didn't know, Lin Ming gained an approximate situation of the Saint race. So that's the reason. No wonder the Saints have only sent out half-step Empyreans to oversee the war. That is because once they send out their own Empyreans, our Empyreans will also fight. At that time, it will be a great battle of Empyreans. If Empyreans die, that will be a considerable loss to the good fortune Saint Sovereign. Not just that, but the good fortune Saint Sovereign has yet to fully recover his strength from the war 100,000 years ago, thus why the current situation is so complex. Mo Eversnow had already completely discerned the situation of the saints. The saint race that invaded the divine realm was not the entirety of the saint race, but only the neighboring saint race universe that belonged to the good fortune Saint Sovereign. Even without the threat of the spiriters, if the other saint race universes wished to invade the divine realm, their armies would have to pass through the good fortune Saint Sovereign's universe. The good fortune Saint Sovereign likely wouldn't be happy to let this happen. To him, the divine realm was a piece of delicious fat meat that was already near his mouth, but he simply didn't have the chance to eat it right now. Lin Ming nodded. Senior apprentice sister should be right. We have at least a few more tens of thousands of years before the good fortune Saint Sovereign has fully restored himself. In truth, until then, we should be safe. As for this war, it should be restricted to the level of holy lords and world kings, it won't expand beyond that. The saint race is even more afraid of this situation than we are, so what's the point of us fearing them? Yes. We don't need to fear them at all. Mo Eversnow let out a light sigh of relief. This was the best news that she had heard yet. A few tens of thousands of years was more than enough time for Lin Ming to grow. At that time, in a true slaughter war, Lin Ming would have the ability to hold his ground. After understanding all of this, Lin Ming and Mo Eversnow were in a much better mood. But with a sudden thought, Lin Ming frowned. The matter is now clear, but how do we pass this on? The things that we know are too detailed, it would be bad to repeat it in full. Indeed. Mo Eversnow nodded. But there is no need to be too detailed. I know that Empyrean Divine Dream will be able to discern most of the situation herself, and she will also believe your words. That's the only way we can do this. As Lin Ming was speaking, the entire Mount Potala began to shake. The palace around him rocked as if an earthquake was passing through. Lin Ming was shocked. This sort of earthquake was no minor matter. Just what sort of place was Mount Potala? This was a sect with 2 Empyreans, the longest-lived sect of humanity, with a history of 3.6 billion years, so how could it be shaken by an earthquake? Let alone an earthquake, even if an Empyrean attacked this land with all their strength, it would still be impossible for them to shake Mount Potala, because Mount Potala's protective array formations were the strongest out of all the sects in the divine realm. Even Divine Dream Heavenly Palace's protections might not be able to compare with theirs. This was the difference in historical legacy, one that stretched back for billions of years. The array formations here had been constantly improved and reinforced over time, and now the degree of firmness of the runes that held them together could be imagined. Could it be that the saints had arrived? As this thought flashed through Lin Ming's mind, at this time, many disciples of Mount Potala were terrified of what was happening. There were even many Empyreans that were feeling nervous. The saint race had truly arrived. As Lin Ming had secluded himself to read the complete memories of the saint race world king, that was similar to experiencing the entire life of the saint world king. It was something that took more than just a few days, and now, the deadline for negotiations between humanity and the saints had finally arrived. The saint race powerhouses had now gathered here. On the distant horizon, 160 to 170 black-robed figures had gathered. Of these figures, some were men, some were women, some were old and young, some were tall and short, some were as thick and sturdy as mountains, and some were as thin and slender as willow trees. This 100-some people didn't seem like too much, but they actually covered the skies and the sun, leaving a darkness that enveloped the earth. The incomparably terrifying aura they sent out nearly caused space to collapse. How horrifying! There must be half-step true divinities in their ranks. The saint race is too terrifying. This is only the tip of their forces, their true divinity powerhouses have yet to arrive. Nobody doubted the high number of saint race Empyreans. Even Lin Ming didn't doubt that the saint race was far stronger than humanity. 3.6 billion years ago, during the era of Empyrean Divine Seal, humanity had been far more formidable than they were now. But, that fight had exhausted all of humanity, and in order to defend the final universe of the human race, Empyrean Divine Seal had perished. That is the saint race. At Genesis Mountain, within the 4 great heavenly palaces, Fire God stood high, wearing a long red robe as he looked up at the skies. His eyebrows were tightly wrinkled together. He knew that the reason Mount Potala shook was not because the saints had attacked, but because the 160 to 170 Saint Empyreans, including the half-step true divinities, had gathered their aura to cause such an impact to Mount Potala. Such a dreadful aura caused one's courage to waver. Fire God couldn't help but acknowledge that if he were to battle with any of these Saint Empyreans, he likely wouldn't be able to defeat over 40% of them. In this sort of situation, even though Fire God was an extremely aggressive and war-oriented character with a vigorous and staunch personality, he was still left short of breath. On the negotiating table, what would be compared was not fancy words or tricky terms, but simply strength. Without strength, no matter how loquacious your words were, everything would be useless. The true divinities have yet to appear, and yet their Empyreans are so strong. That was clearly a demonstration of their power, but that demonstration was extremely effective. Let alone the ordinary disciples that aren't even at the Divine Lord realm, even some Empyreans are feeling weak at heart. Empyrean vast universe shook his head. If even he lacked the confidence to face the saints, then the feelings of the others could be imagined. It's because they don't have any scruples at all that they came directly to Mount Potala to start negotiations. This is the supreme stronghold of humanity, based in the heart of humanity, and yet they aren't afraid that we will ambush them and cut them down here. This is because they have confidence in their absolute strength. That's right, they simply don't fear fighting us here at all. Even if there is a disadvantage to fighting us here, they can still make up for that with pure numbers. Moreover, if we are to truly fight, then their true divinity powerhouses will catch up. Once they come, we will lose without a doubt. Although humanity hadn't completely given up all hopes for this negotiation, there was still a heavy stone atop their hearts that pressed down on them, making them find it hard to stand tall. At this time, from amongst the many Saint Empyreans, a tall youth in white robes walked forwards, a smile on his face. He held a pitch-black bead that slowly revolved above his hand. This youth was the good fortune Saint's son. Even in front of many Empyreans, his momentum wasn't lacking at all, making others feel like he was a strategist with absolute plans of victory. This meant that his status was no lower than that of an Empyrean. The Saint race's holy son is already seen on equal footing with an Empyrean. It's not strange. The good fortune Saint's son already had the ability to protect himself in front of a great world king and is no worse than one. And above a great world king is the realm of an Empyrean. Not just that, but when that is combined with the good fortune Saint's son's talent, he should be treated on par with an Empyrean. That is too exaggerated. Our geniuses are still only at the divine transformation realm, and their strength is equivalent to a late divine lord or half-step holy lord. That is far short of an Empyrean. Our high-level figures cannot compare with theirs, and not even our young geniuses can compare with theirs. Just what is there to discuss? The many disciples gathered at Mount Potala all began discussing amongst themselves. Although they hoped that humanity would be able to give a strong showing and reveal a superior momentum, the truth was placed right in front of them. The good fortune Saint's son held the grand mist spirit bead in his hand, floating in the skies like a god. As he looked at the faces of those below him and saw panic, anxiety, nervousness, and many other emotions, he jeeringly smiled. Cowardly humans, your only worth is as my slaves. Tremble before me. The good fortune Saint's son sneered and looked towards Mount Potala's 4 great heavenly palaces. That was the area of Divine Dream's residence. Divine Dream hadn't appeared yet, but the good fortune Saint's son could still feel her aura, as deep as the sea and as steady as the earth. What a valiant and magnificent woman! By all rights, when the saints had arrived, the human powerhouses should have come out to take a look, and in truth, many Empyreans had done so. But Empyrean Divine Dream hadn't actually appeared. She still sat quietly in her palace. This was the dignity and confidence of a leader. This steadfastness was worthy of praise. The good fortune Saint's son smiled. Even now her aura remains stable. This isn't something that can be faked. The Saint Sovereign was right. This Divine Dream is quite a character, but only this type of woman has the best flavor. The good fortune Saint's son traced his chin, a dark and devilish smile crossing his face. If these words fell into the ears of humanity, then that would be the ultimate disrespect. He actually had thoughts of taking advantage of Empyrean divine dream. Beside the good fortune Saint Sun, a vigorous woman with a slim figure slowly stepped forwards, intimately pulling on his arms. She happily said, "Your Highness Holy Sun, what are you thinking? Are you planning on including Empyrean divine dream in your harem?" The woman who spoke didn't have fair and pale skin, but healthy brown skin the color of wheat. When coupled with her curvy figure and the dagger tied to her thigh, her entire appearance was like a sexy female leopard, filled with an explosive strength. Her cultivation was only at the divine transformation realm. For her to stand here at the divine transformation realm, that was definitely because of the good fortune Saint Sun. Divine dream, because of the conflict between our races, wanting to conquer her completely is impossible. But I'll be satisfied with conquering just her body. It shouldn't be too long before the Saint Sovereign fully recovers, and once I become an Empyrean, I will lead the Saint race to lay waste to the entire divine realm. I will place a slave seal in Divine Dream's body and have her serve me for the rest of her life. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1398, The Goal of the Saint Race. Chapter 1398, The Goal of the Saint Race. As the woman heard the good fortune Saint Sun's arrogant words, not only was she not angry, but she instead giggled. Your Highness Holy Sun is quite greedy, but if you truly wish to lay waste to the divine realm with your current strength, that isn't difficult at all. Just the 4 great protectors that the Saint Sovereign sent down are all half-step true divinities. Moreover, in our Saint Race's Saint Convocation Heaven, there are many other hidden powerhouses whose strength has reached unfathomable boundaries. If you can invite them to emerge from their hidden realms, then exterminating humanity won't be hard at all. The good fortune Saint Sun shook his head. A centipede is still hard to kill even when severed. Although humanity's golden days have passed, they still aren't easy to deal with. Just that single Empyrean divine dream has already come infinitely close to reaching true divinity, and even amongst half-step true divinity powerhouses, there are still divisions of weak and strong. Empyrean divine dream is an existence that stands exactly at the pinnacle of that level. Even I don't know just what degree that woman's strength has reached. Also, there are still Mount Potala's 2 Empyreans who have a similarly unfathomable strength. Great Limitless Buddha has already been long famous for 100 million years and is the oldest, most qualified divine monk of Mount Potala. There is also that War Buddha, Emperor Sakya. Although he is only a rising talent, his strength is actually more terrifying than his elders. I know that his reputation as a war Buddha isn't clear to all, but it is indeed dreadful. His self-created transcendent divine might is called the 3000 Great Worlds, where he was able to divide his primordial soul 1,000 times, 3 times. In other words, he divided himself into 1 billion incarnations that reincarnated in 1 billion different worlds, all of them enlightening themselves through 1 billion lives and allowing him to experience 1 billion samsaras. Then, his avatars ascended to the divine realm, slowly fusing back together into his true self. He, too, is someone that is extremely close to the realm of true divinity, and his strength has reached incomprehensible degrees. Although we could exterminate humanity, we would have to pay a great price to do so, and right now, this price is not something we can afford. Alright, it's time to go down. The good fortune Saint Sun flew down. The 100+ Empyreans that were behind him were only there to increase his momentum and influence here. As for the one negotiating, that was only the good fortune Saint Sun by himself. There was a dark grand hall that was over 1,000 feet tall and wide. In this grand hall was a stone table crafted from timeless god stones, in a square shape of over 200 feet wide and long. The ones standing on both sides were staring at each other in sharp contention. The good fortune Saint Sun sat at one end of the stone table, an iron fan in his hands. A confident and lazy smile graced his face. Behind him stood the vigorous woman in the tight and revealing flexible armor, as well as the many other Empyreans of the Saint race. And on the other side of this table were the Empyreans of humanity. Divine Dream and 3 others stood in the seats of honor. Of these 3 other people, 2 of them wore cassocks and held monk staves in their hands. Their bald foreheads showed 12 rings. The last person was a red-robed old man. He silently sat at the negotiating table, his eyes closed in silence, giving off an aloof and distant feeling. The first two were naturally the two Empyreans of Mount Potala. As for the last person, that was one of the great hidden Empyreans, Skyrend Godlord. The name of Skyrend Godlord had been renowned for 80 million years already. In the past, he had established the Skyrend God sect in the divine realm. For a period of time, besides Mount Potala, there was no other influence that was able to compare with him. But afterwards, because of some unknown matter, Skyrend Godlord went deep into seclusion and no one was able to find any traces of him. As for the Skyrend God sect, they exhausted their destiny with the departure of Skyrend Godlord. Although they still managed to maintain themselves with the hidden protection of Skyrend Godlord, they gradually declined. Now that the great calamity of humanity had arrived, he had also emerged from his seclusion. Now, let us begin. The good fortune Saint Sun spoke with a commanding pose, his voice filled with a brash arrogance as if he had already placed himself on par with the human Empyreans present. Hihi, does the saint race have no one else? They sent out a smelly hairless little baby boy like you to manage negotiations that concern the future of two races? A cold voice echoed out. The one who spoke was Fire God, a human Empyrean. He spoke in a mocking tone, unable to bear the rampant manner of the good fortune Saint Sun. Ha ha ha. The good fortune Saint Sun chuckled. Since when was it your turn to speak? A lower middle Empyrean like yourself will be stranded at the level you are forever, so what qualifications do you have to question me? In several hundred years when I become a world king, my strength will surpass yours. And after 1,000 years, when I become an Empyrean, killing you will be no different from crushing an ant beneath my feet. The good fortune Saint Sun's words caused the human Empyreans to frown. This good fortune Saint Sun was truly too arrogant. Ordinarily, one needed 1,000,000 years of cultivating to reach the Empyrean realm. But, this sort of person mostly relied on piling up their resources and accumulating their cultivation over the years. Their strength likely wasn't too outstanding. There was another type of person who naturally possessed an extreme degree of talent and was able to cultivate to the Empyrean realm in a single breath with unstoppable momentum. For instance, War Buddha Emperor Sokya and Skyrend Godlord were two such characters. They had only used tens of thousands of years to become an Empyrean. For this type of character, there was a chance for them to become a true divinity in the future. But, even Emperor Sokya fell far short of this good fortune Saint Sun. Listening to his meaning, he was saying that he could reach the Empyrean realm in just 1,000 some years. Moreover, once he became an Empyrean, he would be able to kill all other Empyreans on his level as if he were dicing vegetables. 1,000 years from now you will crush me like an ant. In Hua Yuetian's life, I have never heard such a ridiculous joke. Fire God laughed. His character was fierce and wild, and he couldn't endure others throwing sand in his face. The good fortune Saint Sun sneered once more. Then you and I can form an oath now. 500 years from now we will have a life or death battle. If you are too scared to come, then all your meridians will break down and your cultivation will be completely wasted. And if you go against your oath, then you will suffer a backlash from your heart demons that will cause your soul to perish. Why wouldn't I make an oath? Since when have I ever feared anything in my life? Fire God stood up, standing in sharp opposition to the good fortune Saint Sun. But at this time, Empyrean Divine Dream flung apart her sleeves and an invisible strength pressed down on him, forcing him back down. Fire God's eyes widened. He looked at Empyrean Divine Dream. Why are you stopping me? That is enough. We are here to negotiate, not to make some gambling fight. Divine Dream's voice was faint, but her words contained an irresistible feeling. This was the majesty and dignity of Divine Dream. With her powerful strength and her deep aura, even the wild Fire God wasn't able to disobey her. Fire God grit his teeth and firmly sat back down. If Divine Dream is stopping me, then that is because in her eyes, am I really not a match for that good fortune Saint Sun 500 years from now? Fire God's heart chilled. He didn't think that his judgment was superior to Divine Dream's. If that was true, then this good fortune Saint Sun was truly too terrifying. Perhaps within 5,000 years, the good fortune Saint Sun would grow to a point where he could lead the armies of the saints to trample over the entire divine realm. There wouldn't even be a need for the good fortune Saint Sovereign to do anything. Fire God looked at the good fortune Saint Sun. All he saw was a smug expression on his face. Then, the Saint Sun's eyes turned to Empyrean Divine Dream and didn't look at him again. I've heard that humanity's Empyrean Divine Dream is the most mysterious woman of the human race as well as the most beautiful woman. I have always held a deep sense of admiration towards Empyrean Divine Dream, and now that I see you today, you are truly a woman whose beauty is without rival. Even the countless women back in my harem cannot compare with you. In my life, if I can take a woman as wonderful as Empyrean Divine Dream as my wife, then I will truly be able to live a life without regrets. Ha ha ha. As the good fortune Saint Sun spoke, his eyes were glued onto Empyrean Divine Dream. His words were filled with an overly sexual teasing meaning, clearly aimed at her. Empyrean Divine Dream seemed to not hear such disrespectful actions, her expression remained as calm as before. But at this time, in the good fortune Saint Sun's eyes, Empyrean Divine Dream's figure suddenly blurred. A cone-shaped soul attack thrust straight towards the good fortune Saint Sun's spiritual sea. The good fortune Saint Sun's figure trembled and a barrier of light appeared in front of him, blocking this sword of divine sense. His body shook and the chair of timeless God stone beneath him exploded into stone powder. Millimeter. On the Saint Race's side, many Empyreans immediately stood up. Empyrean Divine Dream's illusion attack just now had caused the good fortune Saint Sun to suffer serious losses. Luckily, the good fortune Saint Sovereign had placed a divine protective talisman on his body that had blocked this divine sense attack. Even so, the stone chair beneath him had been completely destroyed. I'm fine. The good fortune Saint Sun stood up and the many Saint Empyreans sat back down. It was like everything that happened in the blink of an eye just now had nothing to do with him at all. He looked at Divine Dream and lasciviously smiled. Empyrean Divine Dream's strength is truly astonishing. Since you don't wish for me to sit, then I shall stand. Empyrean Divine Dream had a placid expression. She didn't expect that her strike would have been able to kill the good fortune Saint Sun, she only wanted him to suffer a loss and ruin his momentum and prestige. On the negotiating table, taking the initiative was extremely important. Even so, she didn't think that the protective charm placed on his body would be so powerful. It had forcibly shattered her sword of divine sense and the good fortune Saint Sun had ended up without a single injury. This caused Empyrean Divine Dream to dread the good fortune Saint Sovereign even more. Cut the nonsense and let's go straight into what we're here for. At this time, beside Empyrean Divine Dream, the red-robed Skyrend Godlord suddenly spoke out loud. His voice was thick and growling but filled with a piercing power, causing one's eardrums to tingle with numbness. The good fortune Saint Sun turned towards Skyrend Godlord. He slowly said, "You are Skyrend Godlord? Not bad. Good, since these are negotiations, I won't delay any further. Let us delve straight into the matter." When the good fortune Saint Sun referred to Skyrend Godlord by his name, this caused all the other human Empyreans to feel a chill crawl down their backs. Skyrend Godlord had disappeared into seclusion for the last several tens of millions of years, but even so, the Saint race had information on him. Although the good fortune Saint Sun didn't recognize the appearance of Skyrend Godlord, he was able to correctly deduce who he was from the fact he was able to sit at the seat of honor amongst all the human powerhouses as well as his aura and the laws he cultivated. The Saint race's understanding towards human Empyreans was far deeper than they had thought. Know yourself, know your enemy, and be invincible. Not only were the Saints stronger than humanity, but the information they possessed was also far greater than humanity's. With this, how could the human Empyreans not worry? Let me get straight to the point. I will state this clearly for all of you. In that Great War 6 billion years ago, countless lives perished and death and destruction was spread throughout the universe. Although my Saint race is powerful, we do not wish for the annihilation of countless lives during every samsara of the great calamity. Thus, this time, my Saint race wishes to establish a new order. We want to use this new order to stop the great calamities from occurring ever again. My saint race wishes to work together with humanity and establish a paradise in the divine shifting heavens where saints and humans can coexist in peace and harmony. We will be able to share martial arts inheritances and resources with each other, helping our races reach new heights and develop the divine realm together. What do you think? The good fortune Saint Sun looked at Skyrend Godlord, an amused smile on his face. Chapter 1399, Conditions. Chapter 1399, Conditions. Coexist together in the divine shifting heavens? Skyrend Godlord's complexion darkened. Upon first hearing this speech, many people couldn't discern just what snake oil the saint race was trying to sell. You are saying that you want us to allow you saints to directly enter the divine realm? You want to establish sects in the divine realm, assist in developing the resources here, and even study our inheritances? Is that what you are saying? Skyrend Godlord tapped his fingers on the table, leisurely speaking. But with every word he spoke, his eyes became increasingly cold. Hehe, that is exactly what I am saying. Of course, humanity may also enter our saint race's territory and we will also support you humans the best that we can. You may even study our inheritances. The good fortune Saint Sun smiled, but as these words fell into Skyrend Godlord's ears, Skyrend Godlord sneered. This agreement sounded fair. But, in other words, it was to allow the saint race to directly enter the deepest territories of humanity and wantonly loot the resources of the divine realm without moving a single soldier. As for allowing humans to enter the world of saints, the sects of the saint race were originally stronger than those of humanity. Moreover, humans knew nothing about the saints. If they recklessly entered the saint race's universe, then they might simply die upon entry. Just what use was there to think about sharing resources? The saint race could send a massive amount of their people into the divine realm, trillions at a time. But it was impossible for humanity to do the same. This was the difference in strength between the races. What do you think? In terms of inheritances, we can lend each other a helping hand. In your most recent Divine Realm First Martial meeting, the first place Frost Dream, second place Lin Ming, and even the extraordinarily talented Han Kai and Xiao Moxian can come to our saint race and study our inheritances. The great gates of my good fortune Saint Palace can be opened to them whenever they please. The good fortune Saint Sun put forth another condition. Skyrend Godlord sneered once more. You want our geniuses to enter your saint race to gain experience? I'm afraid that is the same as tossing meat buns to a dog. There won't be any return for them at all. Do you really think we are fools? Haha, Mr. Godlord, it seems you lack boldness. Who cares how splendid those young elites are? The peace between our two races is something that my saint race is putting forth all efforts to make possible and to prevent the great calamity from happening ever again. Why would we ruin what we worked so hard for just to strangle a few young geniuses? It seems that you are looking down at our saint race far too much. Moreover, if we can coexist in the divine shifting heavens, our saint race will also be sending the champions of our first martial meeting to enter your human race. They will challenge the different masters of humanity and ask for advice from your teachers. The good fortune Saint Sun spoke with a strong sense of righteousness. At this time, Empyrean Divine Dream suddenly said, since that's the case, how about good fortune Saint Sun coming alone to my Divine Dream Heavenly Palace as a guest? Empyrean Divine Dream's words contained ruthless needles within them. The good fortune Saint Sun laughed. I've heard that within Divine Dream Heavenly Palace, there are beautiful women all over. If there truly is an invitation, then I cannot ask for anything more. Is that so? It seems Saint Sun has some interest. Then, we can go right after these negotiations end. Divine Dream smiled, immediately cutting off the playful game the good fortune Saint Sun was weaving. The good fortune Saint Sun's smile suddenly stiffened. He hadn't thought that Divine Dream would be so aggressive and menacing with her intentions. At this time, beside the good fortune Saint Sun, an old man's lips moved as he passed a true essence sound transmission to him. As the good fortune Saint Sun heard this, he grinned once more. At this time, Empyrean Divine Dream and Skyrend Godlord had a foreboding feeling. Their complexions turned cold. Bang! With a terrifying ringing explosion, the entirety of Mount Potala began to shake. A massive black hand tore through space, forcefully smashing down at Mount Potala. At the same time, outside Mount Potala, the glowing barriers of a massive array formation appeared, blocking this giant hand. Ka. The great hand fiercely collided with this array formation, causing a horrifying storm of energy to be whipped up. Then, this great hand unexpectedly tore apart a large chunk of the array formation. 4 shadowy figures entered through this hole. Of these 4 figures, 3 were men and 1 was a woman. They wore black cloaks and armor with an astonishing aura exuding from their bodies. Hey! This array formation can still close itself up. This Mount Potala is quite good. One of the men among the 4 people spoke. He had fair skin and beautifully delicate features, appearing strangely feminine. Behind him, Mount Potala's array formation that had been ripped apart by the black hand began to slowly knit itself back together. However, there was still a black energy left behind that hindered the regenerative process of the array formation, causing it to restore much slower than it should. It is a sect that managed to continue on from the last great calamity, so it must have some ability. But, if the 4 of us join together, completely eliminating it isn't a problem at all. Beside the feminine man, a fat-looking middle-aged man spoke. His 2 pitch-black eyes shined in the darkness, sparkling like diamonds. These 4 people were the 4 great protectors that the Saint Sovereign had sent out. They were also the 4 strongest subordinates of the Saint race's Saint Sovereign. These 4 protectors had come to the negotiation table, but not only did they not send any greetings, they even tore apart the defenses here in order to enter. The purpose of this act was clearly to demonstrate their own strength and make a grand show of it. Bang! The dimension of the meeting hall was ripped apart. The 4 people emerged from thin air, floating high in the skies above the negotiation table. They all possessed half-step true divinity cultivations. In the moment that these 4 half-step true divinities appeared, although they were just casually standing there, a faint array diagram appeared beneath their feet. This array diagram had countless runes flowing on its surface. The extremely oppressive strength left all the human Empyreans with extremely dark and ugly expressions. Skyrend Godlord's complexion was dignified. The sudden appearance of these 4 people had caused a serious tilt in the balance of power between the 2 negotiating sides. If they were to fight here at Mount Potala, then even with the help of Mount Potala's array formations, Skyrend Godlord didn't believe for a second that they would win. If they were to ultimately fight here, then humanity would suffer serious losses. It had to be known that the human Empyreans gathered at Mount Potala were already half the strength of humanity. In facing the strength that the saints had revealed so far, they were far from being their match. Moreover, it was possible that the saints still had true divinity powerhouses that had yet to appear. The disparity between humanity and the saints was simply far too great. Skyrend Godlord and Empyrean Divine Dream glanced at each other, a glint of dread in each other's eyes. And beside them, Great Limitless Buddha had also laid down his Buddha beads. He grasped his monk staff, his entire body revolving with energy. 4 honored Saint Envoys, you have finally caught up, haha. The good fortune Saint Sun briefly bowed towards the 4 new arrivals. The 4 protectors that the Saint Sovereign sent here had an extremely high status within the Saint race. Moreover, these 4 people could also form battle arrays and multiply their strength in combat. The 4 protectors nodded back, not speaking. The good fortune Saint Sun faintly smiled. Now, let us return to the matter about coexisting together in the divine shifting heavens. Strength was the greatest influence on the negotiation table. Without strength, just what was there to discuss? Now, even a hot-tempered and wild Empyrean like Fire God was afraid to tear apart all semblance of peace. If they were to truly fight, then it was possible that humanity would face total annihilation. But, if they made a compromise and allowed the saints to enter the divine realm, they would have to endure the silent invasion of the saints. They would have to watch helplessly on as the saints plundered their resources. Even so, at the very least, humanity would still maintain their foundation and their younger generation would be able to develop. To steel their heart for revenge and endure for 1,000 years. This would give Divine Dream enough time to become a true divinity, and Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian, and the others would also be able to grow up. Once that time came, humanity would still have hope. Throughout history, there were many human martial artists that had to suffer periods of shame and insults. But afterwards, they actually succeeded in becoming rulers of their own domain. Only by being able to endure the things that could not be endured could one make the impossible possible. What do you want to discuss? Skyrend Godlord spoke once more. These words were the same as agreeing to the good fortune Saint Sun's conditions. Empyrean Divine Dream's eyebrows twitched slightly, but she didn't object. Haha, this is the right way, huh? The good fortune Saint Sun was ecstatic. In the face of absolute strength, how could humanity not roll over on their backs? In the future, the saint race would only need to occupy the divine realm and establish a foundation here. Then, they could plunder the resources of the divine realm without end and invest everything into their war with the spiriters. After the soul race was defeated, the saint race could then turn their eyes back to humanity. At that time, dealing with them would be as simple as drinking a cup of tea. Eventually, the saint race would become the true masters of all existence. The good fortune Saint Sun slowly closed his hand. My saint race wishes to sign a non-aggression treaty with humanity. These are the conditions. First, humanity must cede the bright luster great world to us, as well as all other affiliated worlds, hidden worlds, mystic realms, star domains, and so forth. All of that will belong to my saint race. Human sects must leave the bright luster great world. If they wish to stay, they may, but they must obey the orders of my saint race unconditionally. Second, the divine realm's 3,000 great worlds, innumerable dimensional realms and smaller worlds, can be entered at will by my saint race's influences. They will exchange inheritances with human influences and together they can develop resources. Third, humanity must pay my saint race 10,009 sun jades for damages caused to us. This can also be paid in an equal value of materials or spirit treasures. As soon as the good fortune Saint Sun spoke, he put forth such exaggerated conditions. After hearing this, Skyrend Godlord nearly flipped over the table. Divine Dream's complexion turned even chillier. If it weren't for the 4 protectors of the saint race being present, there was the chance that war would immediately have broken out right here, right now. How about it? Do you disagree? The good fortune Saint Sun lazily smiled, appearing completely confident. At his side, the 4 protectors of the Saint Sovereign had runes flowing about them, emitting a deep killing intent that put a great pressure on everyone present. If the 4 protectors were to deploy their battle array together, the strength they could display on the battlefield would be unimaginable. Skyrend Godlord was silent and even Divine Dream didn't speak out. Great Limitless Buddha held his Buddha beads in hand, meditating on heart sutras. The atmosphere was extremely grim. In the current situation, signing a treaty of peace could be called the best outcome for humanity. But, to give away too many interests and resources was something that no one dared to sign away so easily. Once they signed it, they would have to bear the great weight of being the scapegoat for all of humanity. This would be an event recorded down in history, and would become the greatest stain upon the lives of these powerhouses. Divine Dream, Skyrend Godlord, Great Limitless Buddha, Emperor Sokya, all 4 of them would be listed as the traitors of mankind. After 1,000 years, if humanity could win, then everything would be fine. But, if humanity were to lose, they would become the greatest sinners of all time. But, if they didn't sign this treaty now, it was possible that humanity would perish at this moment. The 100+ Empyreans had all been pushed to the edge of the cliff. To sign was to become a sinner, but not signing wasn't possible either. At this time, the flame of a sound-transmitting talisman suddenly lit up. Great Limitless Buddha's eyebrows slightly rose. "What is it?" Skyrend Godlord asked. "Someone wishes to enter the meeting hall," Great Limitless Buddha replied with a true essence sound transmission. "Who?" "Lin Ming." "Lin Ming." Skyrend Godlord frowned. He looked at Divine Dream, but Divine Dream also didn't know what was happening. This was a meeting between Empyreans, so why would a junior like Lin Ming want to come here? What is he here for? Is he trying to add to the chaos? If any conflict really does occur, Then with his cultivation he will be instantly destroyed. Skyrend Godlord unhappily said. Chapter 1400, I refuse. Chapter 1400, I refuse. Even in Mount Potala, the strength of the humans was weaker than those of the saints here. If a battle broke out, there had to be someone that would protect Lin Ming to ensure his safety. But if that happened, it would naturally affect their overall combat strength. Skyrend Godlord waved his hands, implying the meaning that he didn't want to allow Lin Ming here to add chaos to the mix. But at this time, Empyrean Divine Dream said, Grandmaster Limitless, allow Lin Ming to enter. Millimeter? Skyrend Godlord's eyebrows shot up, surprised. Empyrean Divine Dream responded, if there really is some conflict, then I will protect him. Empyrean Divine Dream's status was higher than that of Skyrend Godlord, Great Limitless Buddha, or Emperor Sokia. She could even be called the leader of all humanity. If Divine Dream spoke, Skyrend Godlord naturally wouldn't refuse her request. He frowned and said with a true essence sound transmission, Divine Dream, if you allow that junior Lin Ming to come, just what can he accomplish? Do you think that his words are so beautiful and eloquent that the saint race will draw back from the divine realm? Skyrend Godlord's words were humorless. In these negotiations, strength was the only bargaining chip one could bring to the table. Everything else was simply empty nothings. Empyrean Divine Dream said, if Lin Ming wishes to enter, then he naturally has something important to say. I have a deep understanding of his character. In Empyrean Divine Dream's heart, Lin Ming was clear on just what his priorities were. He wouldn't do something that was out of order. Good. Since that's the case, I will bring him in. Great Limitless Buddha waggled his fingers and the space around him shook. A gate of space and time split the void. Wearing blue robes, Lin Ming stepped out from this spacetime gate. For a time, everyone's eyes focused on Lin Ming. The pressure of 100+ Empyreans from the saint race was extremely terrifying, but luckily the pressure of the human Empyreans was there to balance it out, otherwise it would have been difficult for Lin Ming to withstand. Lin Ming walked into the meeting hall and took a deep breath. He instantly noticed the Good Fortune Saint's son. The Good Fortune Saint's son was tall and sturdy with a handsome face. He grasped an iron fan in his hands. Between his eyebrows, there was a golden mark that resembled a shining sword. So that's the Good Fortune Saint's son. Lin Ming had a deep impression of this person. 100,000 years ago, Empyrean Primordius had encountered a crisis because of the demon bead. In the end, the demon bead had been wrested from his grasp. That had been brought about by the actions of the Good Fortune Saint Sovereign. But afterwards, the Good Fortune Saint Sovereign had actually passed the demon bead to the Good Fortune Saint's son for him to use. However, this wasn't giving it to him, but merely allowing him to use it. Lin Ming guessed that the Good Fortune Saint Sovereign wished to take advantage of this great war between humanity and the saints to have the demon bead absorb a titanic amount of flesh and blood essence energy. After all, although Empyrean Primordius had lost the demon bead 100,000 years ago, he had still left a complete 100 million years worth of accumulated essence energy from the demon bead to Lin Ming. So, it seemed that the demon bead would be in the hands of the Good Fortune Saint's son for quite some time, and retaking the demon bead was also Empyrean Primordius' dying wish. Lin Ming had accepted the kindness of Empyrean Primordius, thus he had to accomplish his final wish. Moreover, he needed the demon bead to help complete his body transformation technique. The Good Fortune Saint's son really is an extreme character. Currently, I am far from being able to compare with him. As Lin Ming was thinking this, an old and harsh voice sounded out in his ears, "Boy, stand behind me and do not interrupt if you have nothing important to say. Otherwise, if there is a problem here, then we really might not be able to protect you." The one speaking was Skyrend Godlord. Although his tone was a bit grating and unpleasant, there was no mistaking the concern in his voice. Lin Ming faintly smiled and thanked him in return. The Good Fortune Saint's son looked at Lin Ming, surprise shining in his eyes. He had heard Lin Ming's name but had never seen a picture of him before, thus he wasn't able to recognize him. But, just from looking at Lin Ming's cultivation and age, he could tell that he was likely a young genius from an Empyrean holy land. This type of character definitely didn't have the qualifications to participate in the negotiations between two races. Who is that boy? Your Highness Saint Sun, that boy is one of the champions of the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting. His name is Lin Ming and his talent is extremely high. He fought Frost Dream to a draw and placed second in the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting. Oh, so his Lin Ming. After the good fortune Saint Sun learned of Lin Ming's identity, he began to look him up and down. Although he had a deep understanding of humanity, he only knew their information and not their appearance. Moreover, the good fortune Saint Sun mostly paid attention to the human Empyreans. They were the goal which the good fortune Saint Sun had to defeat and cut down. Lin Ming was simply far too young. The good fortune Saint Sun possessed an extreme level of talent and he also had a great destiny upon his body since his birth. He originated from a true divinity level influence, and now, with his late Saint Lord level cultivation, he was actually able to contend with a great world king. It wouldn't be long before he stepped into the Holy Lord realm. At that time, not even a great world king would be his match. In this situation, someone who only had an early divine transformation cultivation didn't have the qualifications to make the good fortune Saint Sun feel any fear at all. This was because he had the confidence that his rate of growth far surpassed that of anyone else here. Only he could surpass all others, there was no one that could surpass him. A dual body and energy cultivator who has opened the complete 8 inner hidden gates. His cultivation is at the early divine transformation realm and his foundation is stable. He can also be considered a talented character, but what a pity, he is far too young. When he becomes a divine lord, I will already be able to fight with Empyreans. When he becomes a holy lord, I will be able to dominate all Empyreans. And when he is a world king, I will likely have broken through to the realm of true divinity and will be leading the armies of my saint race to flatten the divine realm. At that time, no matter how talented he is, he will still die beneath my boot. As the good fortune Saint Sun thought this, he didn't bother with Lin Ming anymore. He looked at Empyrean Divine Dream and said, "So, will you agree or disagree to the proposition of my saint race?" Empyrean Divine Dream's delicate eyebrows scrunched together. At this time, Lin Ming's true essence sound transmission echoed in her ears. "Senior Divine Dream, may I ask what conditions the saint race have put forth so far?" Empyrean Divine Dream reiterated the contents of the treaty. She also mentioned the arrival of the 4 protectors as well as her approximation of the saint race's strength. Lin Ming sneered as he listened to all this. The saint race's plans were indeed well thought out. With words alone, they wanted to turn the divine realm into their colony and freely plunder all the resources here. What wishful thinking! Lin Ming responded with a true essence sound transmission. "Senior Divine Dream, the saint race is only bluffing. This junior knows that even if we were to refuse all their conditions, the saint race still would not dare to start an all-out war with us. This is because their current situation is extremely poor. The soul race might break out into war with the saint race at any time, and with the good fortune Saint Sovereign still injured, waging war with humanity at the same time isn't something they can afford." Lin Ming began repeating all the information he knew from beginning to end without concealing anything at all. At this time, Empyrean Divine Dream's decision involved the future of humanity and was of the utmost importance. Lin Ming could only reveal everything he knew to Empyrean Divine Dream. Only like this would his words be believable. Empyrean Divine Dream's thoughts stirred. She looked at Lin Ming with surprise. Humanity knew nothing about the saints, so how could Lin Ming know such a great secret? "Are you sure?" "I am," Lin Ming confidently replied. "How do you know?" Divine Dream wasn't someone who liked prying into the secrets of others. But this was simply far too important a matter. She had no other choice but to query Lin Ming about his sources to determine if they were credible or not. Lin Ming hesitated for a moment. Then, he said, "This junior learnt this from Primordius' heavenly palace." He still hid the information about the magic cube. As for whether Empyrean Divine Dream would believe him, that wasn't something he could control. Primordius' heavenly palace? Empyrean Divine Dream pondered for a moment. Lin Ming's words had a hole in them. If he truly did learn such important information from Primordius' heavenly palace, then his first action would have been to report this as soon as possible to all relevant authorities. After all, this was something directly related to the war between the saints and humanity. If they knew this information earlier, then humanity wouldn't have needed to fear the saint race too much. They could have sent out more martial artists and stronger martial artists to the bright luster great world, so their war missions wouldn't have failed so miserably. Lin Ming wouldn't ignore such holes in his information. If so, and if this information was true, then he would likely have just learnt it, and thus the reason for why he also hurriedly requested to enter the meeting hall where the negotiations were taking place. Otherwise, even in the worst-case situation, Lin Ming would have released this information before the negotiations began. As Divine Dream recalled Lin Ming asking for the corpse of that saint race world king a while ago, she began to form some associations in her mind. After all, she was someone that had lived for 10 million years. With just a few clues, she was able to discern most of the story behind this matter. Without a doubt, Lin Ming had some great secret on his body. And he had used this secret to probe the memories of the Saint World King. Moreover, this secret was something he didn't wish for others to know of. All geniuses inevitably had their own secrets. Moreover, this secret that Lin Ming was hiding was likely no trifling matter. Divine Dream didn't press further. In her opinion, Lin Ming had no reason to lie to her. His benefits were inextricably tied to the fate of humanity. She also didn't think of investigating Lin Ming's secret or even about taking it for herself. After all, she was well aware that this so-called peace between the saints and humanity would last only for 1,000 years, or another 10,000 years at most. After that, there would be a cataclysmic war. Just her alone was not enough to resist this calamity. There had to be more and more powerhouses that emerged, and Lin Ming was one of the most crucial people for the future. Divine Dream couldn't protect characters like him fast enough, so why would she kill the chicken just to take the eggs? To Empyrean Divine Dream, the survival of humanity was the most important matter in her heart. It was something that was even greater than her goal of stepping into true divinity. Without the roots, how could the leaves survive? In Divine Dream's heart, being an Empyrean of a prosperous and magnificent race was far superior to being a precarious true divinity who had no place to rest and was being chased down throughout the heavens by a hostile race. Divine Dream, have you made your decision? The good fortune Saint Sun said, somewhat impatiently. He played with his iron fan with one hand, looking back and forth between Lin Ming and Empyrean Divine Dream. He could feel that Lin Ming and Empyrean Divine Dream were speaking with a true essence sound transmission just now, but he didn't care too much. In his eyes, Lin Ming was an unimportant nobody. In these negotiations that involved the fates of two races, just what would he be able to say? No matter how flowery his words were, in the face of absolute strength, anything he tried was meaningless. Thus, although the good fortune Saint Sun was impatient, he still had a confident smile hanging across his face. He wanted to see that insufferably proud and arrogant Divine Dream submit to him. The sense of achievement from making an unrivaled woman submit to him was something that he enjoyed very much. Perhaps Empyrean Divine Dream would continue to struggle and bargain a little, but that didn't matter. He could put forth a gallant act of generosity and make some concessions. As for these concessions, he had already included them in the conditions before. For example, he could leave several hundred great worlds to the humans, as long as they could plunder the majority of them. Divine Dream turned to look at the good fortune Saint Sun. Then, she smiled. Her smile was both beautiful and dazzling, as bright as the morning sun. The good fortune Saint Sun was stunned. Just why was Empyrean Divine Dream smiling at him? Was she smiling at him to flatter and persuade him? He wasn't sure just what was happening, but at this time, Empyrean Divine Dream parted her cherry-red lips and clearly spoke out 3 syllables. I refuse. The good fortune Saint Sun's face immediately froze. Chapter 1401, Sneak Attack. Chapter 1401, Sneak Attack. What? With this word, the entire audience was shocked. It wasn't just the Saint Empyreans, but even the human Empyreans were lost for a moment. Empyrean Divine Dream's rejection had been too sudden. Her words had carried a tone implying that she had no plans of bargaining. The good fortune Saint Sun's smile was frozen for the briefest moment before he coldly sneered. Are you not satisfied with the conditions? We can hash out the details. Empyrean Divine Dream indifferently looked at the good fortune Saint Sun, contempt thick in her eyes. There is no need to discuss anything. I refuse any and all contents of this treaty. Hearing Empyrean Divine Dream's words, the good fortune Saint Sun's complexion became increasingly dark. The human Empyreans were all panicked and began to constantly discuss amongst themselves with true essence sound transmissions. Divine Dream was too forceful. Although this brash nature made many of the human Empyreans feel proud and elated, they still lacked courage when thinking back to how formidable the saints were, and they also feared that they had offended the good fortune Saint Sun and taken this too far. Divine Dream, do you know what you are saying? The good fortune Saint Sun's hands both grasped his fan. As the end of his fan scraped across the stone table, it made a high-pitched squeaking noise. The good fortune Saint Sun had originally given space in the conditions to bargain with Empyrean Divine Dream. But he never imagined that she would not bother bargaining at all and would flat-out refuse him. Divine Dream, Skyrend Godlord and Empyrean Vast Universe spoke to Divine Dream with a sound transmission. They were afraid that such an absolute rejection would provoke the saint race too far. If an all-out battle broke out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Divine Dream, you must endure the sword above your head, showing the necessary patience is what we must do here. Although we will shoulder the sins of humanity, that isn't anything compared to the fate of humanity. As Skyrend Godlord said this, he and the others didn't say anything more. Then, Empyrean Divine Dream actually waved her hand. I understand. These words left Skyrend Godlord and the others without any avenue to speak further. Even so, they had no confidence about what was happening here. Is this what they mean by saying it is better to live as pieces of jade than to live as tiles on the ground? The good fortune Saint Sun demonically grinned and stood up. Beside him, the 4 saint race protectors also stepped forwards. Astral essence swirled about their bodies, causing the earth to vibrate. The human side refused to admit to being inferior. Although the 100-plus Empyreans here were weaker overall compared to those from the saint race, they still had the support of Mount Potala's array formation. If a true battle began, even if they were defeated they would be able to cause deep losses to the saints. With Divine Dream at the lead, there were also the Great Masters Skyrend Godlord, Emperor Sokia, and Great Limitless Buddha. Ka. The void shook. The 4 great masters of humanity stood in sharp opposition to the 4 protectors of the saint race. The 8 auras smashed together. Of these, Divine Dream's icy blue aura was the largest and most magnificent. With her strength alone, she forcefully withstood the pressure of 2 protectors. As for Skyrend Godlord, Emperor Sokia, and Great Limitless Buddha, the 3 of them joined forces and withstood the aura of the remaining 2 protectors. How interesting! The black-armored leader of the 4 protectors diabolically grinned. The astral essence swirling about him became increasingly wild. At the same time, from between the 4 of them, a golden shining dharmic wheel took form and began spinning below their feet. The human side refused to show weakness. Great Limitless Buddha smashed his staff against the ground. With a loud peal of thunder, the floor made of timeless god stone exploded beneath the staff. A massive amount of golden energy began to gather towards him from all direction, turning into Buddhist seals and symbols that gathered towards Great Limitless Buddha's body. For a time, Buddhist prayers echoed throughout the world. It was like a great bell had been rung, enlightening all. This was the power saved within Mount Potala's array formation and now directed by Great Limitless Buddha. By borrowing the battlefield of Mount Potala, he could multiply his strength. Even if the 4 saint protectors joined together in an array formation, it was impossible for them to shake Great Limitless Buddha's aura. Millimeter. The black-armored man's complexion changed. He hadn't truly started fighting. He had only used his aura to probe his enemies' respective strengths. The human Empyreans were far stronger than he had imagined. This also meant that if they were to truly fight, it would be hard for either side to gain an advantage. Such a situation had never appeared since the negotiations had started. They had lost control of the negotiations. Once the negotiations fell apart, the Saint race would be unable to obtain any benefits. They didn't want to fight here, nor did they dare to fight upon returning. Like this, the Saint race's plan to put forth their strength and threaten humanity would completely fail. The good fortune Saint Sun's complexion grew increasingly gloomy. Suddenly, he looked at Lin Ming. Recalling the previous events, when the Saint race had revealed their great strength, the humans had already acquiesced. Even that Skyrend Godlord had tacitly agreed to sign the treaty and was ready to bargain about the details of the treat. Even Empyrean Divine Dream hadn't opposed this. But then, Lin Ming had appeared from nowhere and had spoken some unknown words with Empyrean Divine Dream in a true essence sound transmission. Following that, Empyrean Divine Dream's attitude had taken a complete 180-degree turn, and she had ended up rejecting all conditions that the Saint race had put forth. If someone said that none of this had anything to do with Lin Ming, the good fortune Saint Sun wouldn't believe them at all. Brat! Just what have you said to Divine Dream? A deep cruel light of hatred flashed through the good fortune Saint Sun's eyes. This peace treaty with the humans involved a tremendous amount of benefits. If they signed it, then that was the same as grasping all the benefits of the divine realm without losing a single soldier. Not only did this affect the benefits of the entire Saint race, but to a certain degree it also affected the final result of the war between the Saints and the Spiriters. And, most importantly, the vast majority of the benefits would have flowed into Good Fortune Divine Palace, where he would have been able to use them. These benefits would have become a stepping stone that paved the way for him to become a true divinity in the future. Now, because of Lin Ming's appearance, all of this had disappeared in a puff of smoke. How could he not hate Lin Ming? And faintly, the good fortune Saint Sun had a premonition that this Lin Ming would become a scourge upon him in the future. If he were to ruin the long-laid plans of the Saint race once, he might do it again in the future. As the good fortune Saint Sun thought of this, he took out the demon bead from his spatial ring and began to galvanize its strength with his bloodline. With a horrifying roar, the phantom of a demon king flew out from the demon bead, hurtling straight towards Lin Ming. This was not the good fortune Saint Sun's strength, but was the power that the good fortune Saint Sovereign had sealed within the demon bead. The good fortune Saint Sun had only spurred this power. But with his current strength, he was only able to animate a tenth of this energy. Even so, a tenth of this energy was amazing enough. The good fortune Saint Sun's plan was simple. These negotiations were not going to progress anywhere, and since the humans dreaded a battle just as much as the Saints did, it was impossible for them to start a battle first. Even if he did anything too excessive, the humans wouldn't do anything to him. If this was the case, he might as well be excessive to the limit and kill off Lin Ming. At this time, Empyrean Divine Dream and the others were all resisting the pressure of the Saints. Even the other Empyreans had joined the fray. No one thought that the good fortune Saint Sun would launch a sudden attack, and that his goal would be Lin Ming. Seeing that black demon phantom rush towards him, Lin Ming was greatly shocked. He rapidly drew backwards, extracting the Phoenix blood spear from his spatial ring at the same time. He could feel a terrifying strength approaching him, just hundreds of feet away. Lin Ming felt as if all the blood essence within his body was being pulled out. His body began to crack, as if he would be mercilessly crushed to death under this pressure. Chapter 1402, A 100-Year Agreement. Chapter 1402, A 100-Year Agreement. Lin Ming. On the human side, the many Empyreans were shocked. But at this time, most of them weren't able to extend a helping hand. At this critical moment, a white-clothed middle-aged man's figure flashed like a bolt of white lightning in front of Lin Ming, facing this black demon phantom and punching out with his fists. Bang! With a terrifying explosion, the timeless god stones all around him completely disintegrated. Horrifying shockwaves surged outwards. This was a collision on the level of Empyrean masters. Even though Lin Ming was protected behind this white-clothed person, he felt his blood vitality tumble within him, feeling as if his body would explode at any moment. Peng! Lin Ming thrust out his spear, breaking down several true essence shockwaves. Even so, he was still sent flying backwards until he roughly crashed into a wall. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, his face extremely white. In that single move just now, he had been severely injured. Just what sort of character was the good fortune saint sovereign? Even if his boundary had dropped, and the good fortune saint son had only used a tiny portion of the power he left in the demon bead, the might of that attack was beyond reckoning. Once this strength locked onto Lin Ming, even though there were people around him to block it, he was still wounded underneath that tremendous swallowing force. In the end, Lin Ming was far too weak. At the divine transformation realm he was equivalent to a half-step holy lord. But in this meeting hall, that level of strength was the same as an ant. Even the relatively weak good fortune saint son was still dozens and hundreds of times stronger than Lin Ming was. Moreover, the good fortune saint son had a true divinity powerhouse protecting him. All sorts of resources and magical tools were freely supplied to him. This was not something that Lin Ming could hope to compare with. I'm too weak. Lin Ming touched his own chest, examining his injuries. His internal meridians and blood vessels were in a complete mess, ruined by a dark energy. Without 3 to 5 days of rest, it would be extremely difficult to restore himself. In this meeting hall, if there was any kind of intense collision, it was possible that Lin Ming would be sucked into the mess and perish in the aftermath. This was why Skyrend Godlord had opposed Lin Ming entering the meeting hall at the start. This was the sorrow and pity of the weak. I must succeed Empyrean Primordius' final wish and retake the Grand Mist Spirit Bead. I have to reach the peak of martial arts and inherit the will of Empyrean Divine Seal, leading humanity to cross this great calamity. But right now, I am weak to the point of shame. Even the aftermath of any attack here can ruin me, so what else is there for me to talk about? Lin Ming clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his flesh. He needed to become stronger, and he needed to become stronger much faster. This peace between the saints and humanity would only last for perhaps 1,000 years. During this 1,000 years of time, he couldn't grow strong enough. Just what qualifications would he have to say he would accomplish the dreams and wishes of those that came before him? Lin Ming, are you okay? Empyrean Vast Universe grimly said as he protected Lin Ming behind him. Empyrean Vast Universe's situation wasn't too good right now. After frontally colliding with the good fortune saint sovereign's power, although he wasn't injured, he was left in a distressed state. Empyrean Vast Universe angrily glared at the good fortune saint son. This was a meeting for negotiations, and yet he had attacked with a killing move without even giving a warning, all in order to eliminate Lin Ming. You blind and reckless little beast, to think you would dare to kill others during negotiations. Our human race will never tolerate someone like you. Empyrean Vast Universe blew up into a violent rage, immediately raising this matter to the level of his entire race. This caused the atmosphere in the meeting hall to become even more tense. Ha ha ha. The good fortune saint son recklessly laughed. What did you just call me? What gives you the right to speak to me like that? You are simply nothing at all. In 10 million years of life, you've only managed to become a middle-ranked Empyrean, and in the future, this is all you will ever be. In my eyes, you are nothing but garbage. Thousands of years from now, you will truly be nothing but an animal to me. If I want to kill you then, it will be no different from slaughtering a chicken. It won't take me any strength at all. What did you say? Empyrean Vast Universe raged. His entire body swelled with blood energy as he neared the point of launching an attack. The good fortune saint son thought little of it. He sneered, "Are you too stupid to understand what I just said? If you have the courage, then we can engage in a life-or-death battle 300 years from now. Do you dare?" The good fortune saint son's words were aggressive and arrogant. Empyrean Vast Universe stiffened and all the blood in his body seemed to rush to his face. He certainly remembered that at the start of these negotiations, Fire God had also come into conflict with the good fortune saint son. The good fortune saint son had proposed a death match several hundred years later, and Fire God had almost agreed. However, he had been stopped by Empyrean Divine Dream. If Empyrean Divine Dream had done so, that was because she believed that several hundred years from now, Fire God wouldn't be a match for the good fortune saint son, and Empyrean Vast Universe held a high degree of faith in Empyrean Divine Dream's judgment. As for Empyrean Vast Universe's potential, He was even faintly worse than Fire God. Now that he faced the good fortune Saint Sun's challenge, he was left in a dilemma. If he agreed, then there was an 80 to 90% chance he would die in battle. But if he didn't agree and chose to shrink back, then in this sharp and tense atmosphere where his actions concerned his own personal dignity and as well as the glory of humanity, he would weaken the momentum of the human race and also shame himself. Humans had a sense of bravery and they also tried to live with dignity. This was especially true for those that had reached the level of an Empyrean. At this time, Empyrean Divine Dream and the others were focused on facing the four protectors. Empyrean Vast Universe grit his teeth, nearly agreeing to this battle. But at this moment, Lin Ming raised his Phoenix Blood Spear and stepped forwards until he stood in front of Empyrean Vast Universe. He wiped the blood from the corners of his lips and said, "Senior Vast Universe, if it's going to be a 100-year duel, then allow this junior to participate." Lin Ming's tone was casual, as if this battle was no big deal to him. Millimeter? Empyrean Vast Universe was stunned. He didn't immediately respond. Lin Ming looked at the good fortune Saint Sun and pointed the Phoenix Blood Spear straight at him. On the spear point, a cold light sparkled, blinding to the eyes. "How about you and I duel instead? I don't even need 300 years, 100 years is fine. In 100 years, let us battle to the death. Do you dare to follow me?" Lin Ming grinned as he spoke, revealing white teeth stained with blood. This caused everyone to be shocked. Lin Ming wanted to fight with the good fortune Saint Sun in 100 years. For a time, even the confrontation between the Empyreans seemed to simmer down. No one here doubted Lin Ming's talent. But in the eyes of many people here, a divine sea martial artist fighting a divine Lord Master was much easier than a divine Lord Master fighting a world king. In other words, Lin Ming was inferior to the good fortune Saint Sun. And, the good fortune Saint Sun also possessed the Grand Mist Spirit Bead, a divine tool of the highest magnitude to help support his training. Moreover, there was also the good fortune Saint Sovereign, a true divinity powerhouse that was pouring all sorts of resources and inheritances upon the good fortune Saint Sun without limit. Such a character only surpassed others. There had never been a time when others had surpassed him. And Lin Ming actually wanted to battle him in 100 years. To overtake the good fortune Saint Sun in a mere century, just what sort of bold courage was that? "Lin Ming, don't be rash," Empyrean Vast Universe hurriedly said. He knew that Lin Ming was stepping forwards for him. Lin Ming wasn't someone that liked owing favors to anyone. When Empyrean Vast Universe had blocked that strike for Lin Ming just now, and now Lin Ming was receiving this challenge for Empyrean Vast Universe. A favor for a favor. "You want to duel me in 100 years? Ha ha ha." The good fortune Saint Sun wildly chortled, his eyes flashing with contempt. "I admit that you are talented. To come in second place in the humans' first martial meeting can be considered decent, but what a pity, compared to me, you still fall far short. If our cultivations were swapped right now and you were at the late Divine Lord realm while I was at the early Saint Transformation realm, you might have a chance of winning. But unfortunately, that isn't reality at all. My cultivation is over a large boundary and a half higher than yours. Let alone 100 years, even 1,000 years or 10,000 years from now, you will never surpass me. Instead, the difference between you and me will only continue to grow larger." Between Lin Ming and the good fortune Saint Sun, one was at the early Divine Transformation realm, and the other was at the late Saint Lord realm, equal to the human late Divine Lord realm. This difference in cultivation was simply too great. For a normal genius, it would be extremely difficult to rise from the early Divine Transformation realm to the late Divine Lord realm in 100 years, especially in a situation where Lin Ming had to overtake the good fortune Saint Sun while he was at it. 100 years from now, it was likely that the good fortune Saint Sun would have reached the Holy Lord realm and would even have traced the threshold of the World King realm. At that time, his strength wouldn't be too far away from that of an Empyrean. The difficulty of this feat could be imagined. That boy has gone crazy. He actually wants to duel my race's Saint Sun in 100 years. It's as if he wants to die. A Saint Empyrean coldly scoffed. He. Does he think that the good fortune Saint Sun is casually chosen from nowhere? The Saint Sun is the next appointed Saint Sovereign of my people. From birth, he has gathered the destiny of my saint race unto him. With such a destiny supporting him, how can he not be lucky? Yes, my race's saint son has entered countless life or death situations, and not only has he not died but he has obtained innumerable treasures. Now, he even has the grand mist spirit bead with him. In terms of fortuitous events, no mere human can compare with him. And in terms of inheritances, he is number one in the world. As for resources, there is no need to mention them. And, as for natural martial talent, he possesses the bloodline of the good fortune saint sovereign as well as the saint heavenly demon princess. From birth he has been soaked in baths of heavenly materials, and there is even the essence embryo of a god beast fused into his body. His foundation and his bones are far superior to all others. In the future he will definitely become a true divinity-level character. Haha, how could this stupid little boy know all of this? Does he think he is invincible just because he obtained second place in some silly little human divine realm first martial meeting? As the Saint Empyreans spoke, they didn't bother hiding their words with true essence sound transmissions, instead choosing to bluntly speak in front of the human Empyreans. With every word that fell into the ears of the human Empyreans, their complexions became that much uglier. The good fortune saint son possessed the bloodline of the good fortune saint sovereign as well as the saint heavenly demon princess. There was also the great destiny of his entire race supporting him, and fused in his body was the essence embryo of a god beast. There was no need to mention the various inheritances and resources he enjoyed. How could such a character come to be? What did it mean to be the next appointed saint sovereign of the saint race? Did this mean that in every generation of the saints, there would always be someone that appeared on the level of the saint sovereign? Even those that believed in Lin Ming's potential, such as Empyrean Divine Dream and Empyrean Vast Universe, felt that Lin Ming had been too reckless this time. Lin Ming, Empyrean Divine Dream took a deep breath. Why did you settle on a duel in 100 years? I know that you have some great heaven-startling secret that you are hiding, but it is impossible for that to surpass the Grand Mist Spirit Bead. In terms of lucky chances, I fear that you are also inferior to the good fortune saint son. Moreover, this good fortune saint son has a great destiny swirling about him. If you wish to fight at some appointed date with him, I won't oppose you, because in the future, you and him are destined to battle sooner or later. But, to set the date 100 years from now is far too soon. Lin Ming thought for a moment. Before he put forth this 100-year date, he didn't know that the good fortune saint son would be so lucky. Even so, he didn't regret anything at all. I thank Senior Divine Dream for the advice, but this junior has already set forth a date of 100 years. It isn't because I am arrogant, but because I wish to place enough pressure on myself. Any temporary peace between the saints and us humans will last no longer than 1,000 years, it might even be much shorter than that. When the true great calamity finally erupts and I still do not possess the strength of a half-step true divinity, what use is there in thinking I can do anything to help humanity resist this tribulation? Chapter 1403, The Result of Negotiations. Chapter 1403, The Result of Negotiations. Lin Ming's words caused Empyrean Divine Dream's heart to skip a beat. Reach the same level of strength as a half-step true divinity within 1,000 years? It had to be known that Divine Dream herself, Emperor Sokia, and the other leaders of humanity were only half-step true divinities. They had used innumerable years to reach this step, and now Lin Ming said he wished to reach this level in just 1,000 years. If this was said out loud, who would believe him? But, if he wished to play a prime role in this great calamity, becoming a half-step true divinity was the most basic step. This was a war that involved the fates of two races. Empyreans could be considered the backbone of the forces, world kings were soldiers, and as for holy lords, they were nothing but cannon fodder. Lin Ming didn't wish for his own destiny to be controlled by others when the great calamity truly erupted. Even becoming a half-step true divinity wasn't his final goal. What he wanted was to become a true divinity, someone that could frontally contend with the good fortune saint sovereign. Only like this could he truly bring about a change in the war. Lin Ming, well said. Empyrean Divine Dream suddenly said with a true essence sound transmission, Geniuses should be bold and filled with determination, ready to make decisions that shake the heavens and earth. For us who walk down the road of martial arts, we did not do so to be defeated. Since you have recognized that this is the path you wish to take, Divine Dream Heavenly Palace will support you to our fullest capabilities. For Lin Ming with his divine transformation realm cultivation to challenge the late Saint Lord Good Fortune Saint Sun in 100 years was indeed a decision that would shake the heavens and earth. In several days, whether it was the saint race or human race, this matter would spread throughout both of them. Lin Ming, hey, the Good Fortune Saint Sun looked at Lin Ming, a joking smile on his face. Since you wish to duel me, very well then, let it be so. Let us form a heart demon soul contract with a transcendent divine might. 100 years from now, if one of us dares to back out, then he shall suffer a backlash of his heart demons, his meridians shall be torn to pieces, and his soul will evaporate into nothing, never to enter samsara. As the Good Fortune Saint Sun put forth such a vicious and cruel oath, a demonic smile split his face. He wanted to rid himself of Lin Ming. Since it was no longer possible for the saints to coexist in the divine shifting heavens, exterminating Lin Ming could be considered a consolation prize. Towards this type of genius that was sure to become an extreme empyrean in the future, the Good Fortune Saint Sun only thought of killing him off to end all potential trouble. Fine. Lin Ming readily agreed. He and the Good Fortune Saint Sun bit down on their fingers and flung out a drop of blood essence. These 2 drops of blood essence connected in midair, forming patterns of blood-colored seals. These seals seemed to burn like red-black flames. Then, these seals turned into curse seals that sank into Lin Ming and the Good Fortune Saint Sun's bodies. Seeing this, all of the human empyreans present were shocked. Once this heart demon soul contract was signed, it meant that after 100 years, only one of these 2 geniuses would emerge alive. Signing this sort of contract required a titanic amount of courage and confidence. Lin Ming, could he win? Who? All of the blood vitality began to condense within Lin Ming's body. The transcendent divine might curse seal formed a black-red mark on Lin Ming's chest that slowly hid itself away. The contract had been formed. As the Good Fortune Saint Sun saw this, he diabolically grinned. He knew that the goal of today's negotiations would not come to fruition. If they continued this stalemate, there would be no meaning to it at all. No matter what the humans had learnt, it was impossible for them to give in any longer. Killing Lin Ming in 100 years was the only harvest of today. We're leaving. As the Good Fortune Saint Sun spoke, he immediately turned and flew away. Behind him, the many Saint Empyreans also followed him and left. The array formation of Mount Potala was torn apart once more. Then, the 100+ Saint Empyreans tore through the void of the divine realm, disappearing from sight. The human Empyreans looked at each other, speechless. Negotiations had concluded like that. In these negotiations, they had all thought that they would have to make concessions, otherwise death and war would spread through every corner of humanity. But, everything had ended just like this. In the end, the saint race hadn't come at all. They had come in with a threatening posture and a menacing air, but in the end they left without anything at all. From start to end, the saint race seemed reckless and wild, but the truth was that they never started an all-out war at all. Rather, they had tried to intimidate the human race, but once that intimidation failed, they were instead defeated. This was proof that the saints dreaded something. They were afraid. Even their powerful lineup was merely a mirage meant to threaten them. But even so, it was true that the momentum of the saint race had been extremely horrifying. If it weren't for Divine Dream insisting until the final moment and defending their bottom line, then perhaps they might have truly signed this treaty with completely disastrous conditions for humanity. Thinking of this, everyone looked at Divine Dream and then looked at Lin Ming. They certainly knew that before Divine Dream's attitude had undergone a complete change, she had conversed with Lin Ming using a true essence sound transmission. Divine Dream, what did Lin Ming say to you? The one who asked was Skyrend Godlord. He couldn't imagine just what Lin Ming had said to change Divine Dream's mind. Before this, many Empyreans were puzzled as to why the saints didn't dare to start an all-out war. It was as if they dreaded the human race for some reason. But those were only speculations. The saint race had at least one true divinity powerhouse as well as many half-step true divinity masters. They were far more formidable than humanity in terms of overall strength. In a crucial moment that involved the life or death of the entire human race, who among them would dare to draw some conclusion based on some random information? Divine Dream shook her head. Nothing. Lin Ming only gave some suggestions. Divine Dream was being specifically ambiguous in her wording. She clearly didn't want to reveal too many details. This was to protect Lin Ming's secret. The less people knew, the better it would be for him. Skyrend Godlord hesitated for a moment and finally didn't ask again. He knew that Divine Dream didn't wish to explain herself. Like this, the negotiations that involved the survival of humanity had ended. Following this, the saint race didn't act out in shame and rage, nor did they begin a large-scale invasion of the divine realm. Rather, they stayed in the bright luster great world. Humanity also didn't send out Empyreans to retake the bright luster great world. This was the best result possible. They didn't cede further territory, they didn't pay any compensation, and they also didn't lose sovereignty of the divine realm. In this situation, humanity even gained a moment of peace. Empyrean Divine Dream was aware that the saint race dreaded humanity right now. But, if humanity were to force them to desperation, they would truly engage in a war where both sides perished. This was something that neither the humans nor the saints wished to see. Thus, no Empyreans could be sent out in this war. Battles would be limited to the World King level. Like this, a brief lull of peace appeared between humanity and the saint race. The bright luster great world was temporarily occupied by the saints. For now, every human in the divine realm was cheering for the magnificence of the many Empyreans. And at this time, news of Lin Ming challenging the saint race's good fortune saint sun also spread out, traveling through the entire divine realm like a tide. In contrast to what the Empyreans thought, most human martial artists thought that Lin Ming challenging the good fortune saint sun was an extremely grandiose and wonderful feat. After humanity was forced back again and again, suffering the sorrow of repeated losses, they sorely needed a hero to appear, a figure they could use to encourage themselves. They needed a hearty and vigorous battle with their enemy, one that could give them the courage to continue resisting the saint. And Lin Ming jumping ranks to challenge the good fortune saint sun had undoubtedly accomplished this. This caused many human martial artists to feel proud and joyous. Even the common mortals of the divine realm vividly painted a scene of Lin Ming challenging the good fortune saint sun at the negotiation table. Of course, this all came from their imaginations. In their imaginations, Lin Ming appeared like a hero from the dark skies, suppressing everyone present and overwhelming the world. But, the reaction in the saint race was the complete opposite. They heard stories where Lin Ming was casually struck by the good fortune saint sun to the point of vomiting blood. As for the duel between the good fortune saint sun and Lin Ming in 100 years, everyone took that as a joke. As their future saint sovereign, how could he possibly be defeated by a little divine transformation realm boy? Chapter 1404, The Elites of the Saint Race. Chapter 1404, The Elites of the Saint Race. In the blink of an eye, a month passed from the negotiations at Mount Potala. The saint race continued to have their armies on standby. They didn't withdraw from the bright luster great world, nor did they continue their expansion outwards. After several days passed, the saints sent out a messenger, bringing forth a personal letter from the good fortune saint sovereign. The summary of this letter was that for 500 years, humans and the saints would not break out into a great war. There would be occasional battles of course, but all of this would be limited to the level of holy lords at most. World kings and Empyreans would not participate in any fights. The saints would also not withdraw from the bright luster great world. The bright luster great world would become the sole battlefield between humanity and the saints. All influences of the saints would send their disciples to temper themselves there, immersing themselves in the thick of the slaughter. However, after leaving the bright luster great world, humanity and saints could not freely slaughter each other. The only exception would be a life or death battle which both sides mutually consented to. Whether it was a human or a saint, if anyone violated this restriction, Then both races would join together to hunt down the criminal. Once this treaty was signed, the conditions had to be followed, otherwise one would suffer a backlash of heart demons. In the text of this treaty, there were 50 joint signatures from extreme Empyrean-level characters of the saint race. If humanity were to agree to these conditions, then they would also need 50 extreme Empyreans to sign it. This included Divine Dream, Skyrend Godlord, Emperor Sokia, as well as many others. The good fortune saint sovereign wants to use the bright luster great world as a tempering field. Divine Dream quietly said after reading the letter. Yes, the saints need their geniuses to grow quickly, but so do we humans. The future bright luster great world will be a land filled with blood and death. Those that perish there will often be heroic young elites. But these constant life or death battles also come with opportunity. If our geniuses go to the bright luster great world to gain experience, they too will grow much quicker. To set aside a battlefield like the bright luster great world was advantageous to both the saints and humans. As for restricting all battles to below the world king level, that was also something that humanity hoped to see. All in all, this was an equal treaty. Both the humans and saints wanted to sign it. Empyrean Divine Dream was silent for a long time. Then, she signed her own name on it. After Empyrean Divine Dream signed it, many other Empyreans followed suit. When a full 50 Empyreans signed the contract turned into a black flame that slowly sizzled out in the air. For such a contract, once it was broken, although it wouldn't take one's life, it would still damage one's cultivation. To an Empyrean, this was already an extremely heavy price, so they naturally wouldn't violate the terms. Like this, a strange and awkward peace formed between the human race and the saint race. In the bright luster great world, the slaughter there actually became increasingly intense. Many youths, filled with courage and gusto, hated that their lands had fallen to the saints, and a violent battle would quickly break out with just a few words. Moreover, many influences also sent their own young disciples to temper themselves on this bright luster great world battlefield. As for the world kings and Empyreans, they did not intervene. If these young geniuses truly possessed sufficient strength and destiny, then they would be able to save their own lives. In the North Saw great world, there was a large planet. This planet was called the Bright Saw planet because it was located at the border region of the North Saw great world and the Bright Luster great world. Many martial artists of the divine realm had to pass through this world to enter the bright luster great world and adventure. This also caused the usually idle and not too prosperous Bright Saw planet to become extremely busy. Great throngs of martial artists would pass through this planet every day. At this time, in an opulent restaurant on Bright Saw planet, 7 or 8 martial artists were gathered here, drinking and conversing with each other. They were all young elites of humanity that were headed to the bright luster great world to adventure. Of those that dared go to the bright luster great world, the weakest among them were geniuses of Holy Land level sects. Normal 8th grade sect geniuses would not dare to go because it was far too easy for them to die on the treacherous battlefield of the bright luster great world. As these martial artists spoke, they became increasingly excited and animated. They spoke about the current situation between the humans and the saints, the state of the bright luster battlefield, as well as the negotiations that happened on Mount Potala just several months ago. Finally, they shifted the topic to the 100-year duel between Lin Ming and the good fortune Saint Sun. At Mount Potala, Lin Ming had jumped over a boundary and a half to challenge the good fortune Saint Sun. This had already become a glorious topic of discussion that had spread throughout the divine realm. Even body transformation realm martial artists had heard of it. Most martial artists of the divine realm had never seen Lin Ming before. But, only a pitiful number of martial artists had never heard of Lin Ming's dazzling feats. To dare sign a life or death dual contract with the good fortune Saint Sun, such a proud and daring character caused all of humanity to be filled with pride. I heard that Lin Ming is soon about to break into the middle divine transformation realm. That's normal. He has already been at the early divine transformation realm for 3 years now, so he should be able to break through at any moment, but he simply doesn't wish to right now. For a genius like Lin Ming, making breakthroughs is an extremely simple matter. The only problem for him is that he needs to consider whether or not his foundation is solid. Haha, after making a breakthrough, Lin Ming's strength will rise by a large margin. If he continues growing at this rate, then who knows what degree he will reach in 100 years. That good fortune Saint Sun was simply too arrogant. I've long since found him sickening to my ears. The good fortune Saint Sun is definitely talented. According to common sense, it should be difficult for Lin Ming to defeat him 100 years from now, but Lin Ming has a great destiny on his body and he has continued to create miracles all the time. I believe that he will definitely bring about another miracle this time. Do you really believe that this little Lin boy will be able to create a miracle? At this time, in a corner of the restaurant, a voice of disagreement sounded out. This person's voice was halting as he spoke the language of the divine realm. It was clear that he wasn't skilled in it. Several young elites frowned. They turned to the corner of the restaurant to see two men and one woman. The man who was sitting at the head wore embroidered robes. He had skin the color of wheat, and although he wasn't handsome and even seemed a bit strange, his eyes were particularly deep to the point that one could drown in them. Sitting near this man was a young girl in a robe of feathers. She had a beautiful appearance and her figure was slender. A charming little smile hung on her face. She pulled on this man's arm as if she were his lover. As for the last man, he was skinny and tall like a bamboo pole. His hands were also thin and gnarly like the claws of a chicken. The sockets of his eyes were sunken in to an extreme degree, making him seem quite dreadful. These three people all wore clothes different from those of humans. In addition to their halting use of the divine realm language as well as their hostility towards Lin Ming, when this was combined together it was clear that they all came from the saint race. It's devils of the saint race. These three saint race devils, to think that they dare run outside of the bright luster great world. They are simply looking to die. The 7 or 8 youths were about to pull out their weapons but a white-clothed man stopped them. Stop being so reckless. This is no longer the bright luster great world. According to the agreement between humanity and the saints, once one leaves the domain of the bright luster great world, one cannot slaughter at will. If you want to fight, then both parties must agree, otherwise you will be punished for violating the rules. That's right, Big Brother is correct. Don't be impulsive. Otherwise, even if you killed the 3 of them, we would still have to be buried with them. As the several young elites spoke, the skinny saint man and the woman began to laugh as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. This laugh was reckless and without end. The young human elites frowned. Just what are you laughing about? I'm laughing at your ignorance. The feather-robed woman stood up. You barbarians are ridiculously stupid. You don't even know what our status is and yet you think you can just kill us if you want. How laughable. You should be thankful that there is a treaty between the saints and the humans, otherwise we would have already lopped off your heads for your disrespect just now. The humans referred to those from the saint race as saint devils. As for the saints, they referred to humans as barbarians. In accordance with their words, they thought of humans as nothing but uncivilized slaves, pigs that could be butchered at any time. Although there was a temporary peace between the two races, they would still exchange insults with each other. Humph, just what nonsense are you spouting? Since you can't do anything at all, then you might as well blabber on as much as you want. My human race's second-ranked genius Lin Ming is not someone that the likes of you could ever imagine. The martial artist who spoke swept over the cultivation of these 3 saints. These 3 saints all had a cultivation at the middle and late saint transformation realm. There was no need to fear this level of cultivation. Just what is Lin Ming? What gives him the qualifications to fight with senior apprentice brother Saint Sun Wumore? In the eyes of senior apprentice brother Wumore, that Lin Ming is simply a rabid barking dog. It was only that the situation at the negotiation scene was special that senior apprentice brother Wumore would care about that idiot. Haha, you can't say it like that. That boy Lin Ming can still be considered a decent genius amongst the humans. Since he wants to die, then senior apprentice brother Wumore might as well pass him a helping hand. This only means that the humans will be even weaker 100 years from now. Wumore was the surname of the good fortune Saint Sun. If these martial artists could refer to the good fortune Saint Sun as senior apprentice brother Wumore, then that definitely meant they had some relationship with the good fortune Saint Sun. As these people heard them dismiss Lin Ming in such a manner, all of them were enraged. "Just who are you?" the leader of the human youths asked, his voice gloomy. If this person could refer to the good fortune saint's son as senior apprentice brother Wumore, then it was likely that they came from the same sect that he did. In other words, a true divinity-level influence of the saint race. If they were core disciples of that true divinity influence, then their talent must be incomprehensible. The three people looked at each other. Then, the feather-robed woman chuckled and said, "Then let me tell you. Listen well, we are both lower disciples of the good fortune saint sovereign. My senior apprentice brother Naki is the first-place champion of the most recent Saint C first martial meeting of the saint race. As for me, I was 6. As the feather-robed woman spoke, she pointed towards the embroidered robe youth amongst the three of them. As all the young elites of the human race heard this, they felt their hearts skip a beat and drop to their stomachs. The first place and sixth place champions of the saint race's Saint C first martial meeting. The Saint C realm was equal to the human Divine C realm. Whether it was humans or the saints, the Divine C and Saint C realms were both times when one's cultivation had reached large success. Taking humans as an example, after experiencing the 9 stages of life destruction, their true might in the laws would manifest. Thus, holding a first martial meeting for all heroic young elites at the Divine C realm was the most persuasive show of potential and strength. This was also the same for the saint race. To be able to obtain first place in the Saint C realm first martial meeting, the talent of this youth could be imagined. After all, the geniuses of the saint race surpassed those of humanity in both quantity and quality. For this point, even if the young elites of humanity didn't want to agree with it, they couldn't deny it either. Without a doubt, although this youth in front of them was only at the late saint transformation realm, in terms of true strength he was likely comparable to a weak holy lord. If such a character were compared to the good fortune saint's son, then perhaps the only difference between them would be their age and the destiny upon their bodies. It was no wonder that he dared to speak like this. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,